Okay, good morning, everyone. I welcome all of you for today's session. I hope all of you are keeping well. Uh, Good morning. So, I hope that all of you have been reading, writing, revising. Be more frequent. The more thorough you are with your revisions, the greater the level of clarity and confidence that you will have associated with this given area. So, like in the previous session, we discussed about compassion. And if you all can recall that I discussed about what empathy and compassion is all about. In the process, yesterday I discussed that how it is the highest form of dharma or the virtue, and that is what makes you enabled as a leader. That's what generates a sense of connectivity with the masses for you as a leader. So we also discussed about misplaced compassion, how when the compassion is not associated with the right set of people and right set of situations, or too much of compassion is exercised when it is not needed, then it can be problematic, like a mother becoming too compassionate towards her child. That can also spoil the child. And it can be also associated with you donating or doing charity to an unworthy person. So like in the news when it was there associated with, like, the beggars, drinking alcohol, becoming alcoholics, drug addicts. Okay, so all that stuff you can understand that given possibility with misplaced compassion. Then how to inculcate compassion in the hearts of people. There were certain pieces of suggestion that was given, which was associated with these given dimensions pertaining to sensitivity training, or associated with, we can also say, this open conversation, sarvadharma sambhava, developing a sense of diversity in terms of diversity of literature, culture. Again, we can say cultivation of interest pertaining to other cultures. So that's also something which all of us can develop when we are talking about it. Okay, so that's something which all of us can reflect upon when we are talking about development of compassion, and how it impacts us per se. So compassion, when we can reflect upon it, why is it needed? It is needed so that the public servants are able to connect with the concerns of the people. They are able to empathize with their causes. They are able to understand the root reason behind the sense of disappointment that people may experience. Also, we can connect it with the possibility that somewhere it not only helps the public servants to connect with the people, but we can also consider that compassion is something which helps the person to be tempted to help others out, or help himself out of the current situation. So it's due to compassion that we can see that an individual is motivated to bring about change in the lives of the other people. So how to bring it in, I have already discussed that there are like sensitivity training, there can be acceptance of diversity, cultural training, there can be exposure to art and culture. It can also be associated with religious teachings. So this component of religious teaching can be further added to, we can say, over here. Okay, so I can just write it over here: religious teaching. And with respect to religious teaching, we can think of Buddha's fourfold, eightfold path is also there, but we can talk about the possibility associated with the fourfold, the fourfold path and the four noble truths. With the eightfold path can be connected with that specific concept. So, four noble truths. We can also connect it with the component of charity, and we can say charity and support. That's there in discussed in, we can consider, Islam, Hinduism, Christianity. Think so all of you can connect with this given component when we are discussing about it. All right, so why is it shining so much today? The shine, maybe. Just a second, hold on, let me just switch on the lights because of, yeah, now it's better. So ethics may not do justice to the people. For example, how whistleblowers were systematically brought to death for exposing corruption. So Pulkit, what do you want to say, that just because of fear of death, a person should not be ethical? What is more important? To live a life of honor, dignity, and a life of, we can say, today also you remember Satyendra Dubey, right? Because of his, we can say, honorary contribution in the path of being truth and exposing the racket. Actually, it was, everything was running seamless. It was just because of one careless mistake of a senior bureaucrat that the information got leaked, that who has given the information about the corruption prevailing in the construction of the bridge. It was just one of the senior bureaucrats who did not realize the mistake that he was committing, and because of which the information got leaked out. Otherwise, when the complaint is at cabinet level, generally, like, the person is not only safeguarded, but also the action is duly taken. So it was not the mistake of, we can consider, the possibility of Satyendranath Dubey, that he raised the complaint. And there are so many officials who, like, with aging everyone will die, isn't it? No one is born immortal. But it is just that when people stand courageously in the face of all odds, that they are able to create better possibilities of living for others. And it is probably this going spineless and having a worm like life, that or vermin like existence, that breaks the back of a civilization, that normalizes corruption. So if the generation, your generation, gets scared of becoming honest and upright, then that can become problematic. Yeah, Ashok Khemka sir was not a whistleblower, but yeah, he also blew the cover over the corruption prevailing in Congress, especially Robert Wadra's role in land scam. And he is alive, and he is a senior IS officer, and he, because your promotion is not hindered if you are a good officer, an upright officer. Definitely you might not, I would say that we can consider that you might not get promoted to a higher level. You might not get like your promotion does not get hindered, but by higher level, I imply to say you may not get those so-called creamy departments. Like, there's a possibility that you might not get finance or home ministry, but you'll get women and child development. You can get social justice. So if you are in the, like, I would say, aspiration of getting some creamy post whereby you are making some good money, then yeah, that can get affected or compromised. But when it comes to, I would say, you getting promotion, you getting a salary, you getting a specific department, that is not something which gets hindered in the system. All kinds of people survive, the super corrupt and evil, and the upright and super honest. And it is the 20% upright and honest who have kept the system ticking and surviving, despite of all patterns and forms of dishonesty. All right, so that's also something which we all can connect with. All right, so sometimes ethics may not do justice. So I hope that's clear, Pulkit. And please have an optimistic attitude towards weeding out corruption. If, like, you are not going to be a regular common citizen, you will have power, you will be representing the power of the system. If the bureaucrats start feeling scared, then imagine the condition of the poor man, the vulnerable sections. They will be all the more helpless. So that's also that. Um, so that's there. How an atheist comes to know about ethical principles. Atheist does not mean that the person is unethical. Atheist means the person negates the existence of God. The person is into a rational questioning mind. So a rational questioning mind can always learn or understand what is broader human principles, what is correct, what is incorrect. And it's not that the atheist is living on an island. The atheist is living in a society. And as we had discussed, that it is the parents, the educational institutions, the formal textbooks, the environment, the friends, our own innate sense of right and wrong, a lot of things feed to the idea of ethical existence. So that's how you tend to gain it, right? So that's also something which you can connect. So with respect to this, why promotion is needed as motivation to do or not do something. Well, Manoj, promotion is not a motivation. Let me share in your case, like in civil services. In civil services, as per your age and as per the, like, tenure of service, you will naturally get promoted. So it's nothing of that sort. Um, Again, does bureaucrat need to be compassionate? Why not? If a bureaucrat is not compassionate, how will the bureaucrat exercise diversity, tolerance, empathy, caring for the vulnerable sections, letting all the schemes or interventions reach out to the vulnerable sections? So that is something which we all can connect with, right? Shalu, just imagine about all the students who join late, and if they also start struggling with the same thing, that, oh, because I joined late, so I'm struggling to connect, and please summarize once again, then how chaotic it can be for even you. If every student who gets late, you have not missed out on anything. I've just addressed questions and queries of people. So just calm down. All right. Is there any age restriction in civil services? Jagabandhu, how about you seeing the advertisement of UPSC? In the advertisement, all the age restrictions pertaining to different communities is shared. What is included in this heading? What is included in this heading? Well, we are discussing about compassion. If you remember, yesterday we were discussing about compassion. So we are discussing how to inculcate compassion. And that's what we were discussing. So, anyway, and there was this question which was associated with compassion, and it was expected that you went ahead, like, to after going to home, just like reflecting upon this given possibility, that apart from intellectual competency and moral qualities, plus means intellectual competency is also needed, moral qualities is also needed. Along with that, empathy and compassion are other vital attributes, like you cannot deny that, okay, in tackling crucial issues or taking critical decisions. And you had to give suitable illustrations. So examples, so you could think of like Armstrong Pame, how this guy built 100-kilometer road just because of compassion, because there was no government fund, no government support, but he realized the importance of road, that if there is a road, it is going to not only connect the local villagers to the market, their products can reach out to the market, and they can improve their income, but along with that there can be other interventions as well. um, when we are speaking of this given dimension, with respect to what all possibilities unfold before us, we can also reflect upon other dimensions which are associated with different types of interventions that different officials bring. So, as I was sharing about, like Armstrong Pame, there was no government fund that had come for the construction of road. We can generally see that in our cities, if there is a little pothole, the pothole can keep growing bigger, but the government takes a lot of time to fix it, right? Even people take a lot of time to fix if there is a pothole in their own colony, in their own society. And imagine 100 kilometers road. Just imagine your location wherever you are, like living or staying right now, and stretch it up to 100 kilometers. That stretch, having a vision that the road is essential, it is the backbone of economy, it is the backbone of various policies to reach out to the remote areas, whether it is midday meal or whether it is pension scheme. Anything can reach out, any benefit can reach out to the people only when we are able to bring about an intervention, or we are able to bring about a change pertaining to what like people are living and how accessible the resources are. And realizing that importance, he encouraged the tribal councils to contribute. He like contributed from his salary. There were other regular people who, like, who were well off, and they also contributed. And the poorer sections of the society, the common masses, they did shramdan for 1 hour, like, 2 hours, or how much soever people could devote their time for the construction of the roads. And that is how that 100-kilometer road got constructed, even without a single penny coming from the government or any governmental intervention. Similarly, Poma Tudu, she is from Odisha. She could reach out to the remote areas of villages in Odisha and carve a road out of the, we can say, the hills, because there were villages, tribal villages, which were like tucked up between the hills, and there was no road going up to the hill, and it was almost 10-kilometer stretch that a person had to like walk before a person could reach out to the basic street or the road. And definitely that impacted the interventions pertaining to healthcare, education, and various government policies that should have reached out to the poorer sections. And she could, like, make an intervention sheer out of compassion, because when she tried to reach out to the village just to see that what people are living or experiencing, so what happened was that she got she went there because regularly in the DM office the complaints were coming that the schemes are not reaching, the efforts are not reaching out. So she went with her like government vehicle, and then she realized that beyond a point the government vehicle cannot go. So she got down from her vehicle and she started walking up, and to which her bodyguard said that, ma'am, it's very unsafe for you. It's like a tribal area, and Naxal attacks can also happen. To which she responded that these are my people. If I as an officer start feeling scared, then who else will come forward to do the work? So one has to behave fearlessly when it comes to making an intervention for the masses. And she was like, and why has security been provided? And I'm a daughter of this region, so I know this region and I know the people and the interventions that are needed. And as she walked all the way for 10 kilometers to reach out to the village and to see the hardships of the people and the challenges. So that all these interventions, all these examples that I'm sharing with you, it is possible only with compassion. If a person is lacking compassion, a person cannot bring in the difference. So when we are talking about intellectual competency and moral qualities, yes, all that is important. You need a knowledge base, you need your inner sense of right and wrong, but along with that you need empathy and compassion to bring about difference in people's lives. You can provide better governance in the situations like riots. You can provide better access to schemes and interventions in the face of such kind of interventions per se, when we are talking about this given dimension. All right. So with respect to this, as we are further moving ahead, there is yet another civil services value which is there in your syllabus when we are talking about it. So how did Armstrong Pame convince people, being a government servant, that money will not come from government, but we should make the road on our with our own money? Abhijit, because people were seeing that a lot of government interventions, especially in remote areas, they don't reach out. They don't reach out for decades, and people know that what they need. So when people know what they need and they see that an officer is committed to create a difference, and once, like, the initial 1 kilometer is actual stress, the initial push is the actual stress. Once you start working and people see that you're committed to work, you're committed to bring about difference, and everyone is contributing, the change starts happening. If you're like, and it is nothing but compassion which motivated him to donate a part of his salary to, like, start the construction, to encourage the tribal councils to contribute, to encourage the people to contribute with their labor. So that's how it happens, because there is a need which is required and there is no support coming. So let us fix the need ourselves, and that's how things get, like, we can say, facilitated. All right. So the next civil services value which all of us have, why government doesn't focus on providing basic facilities. Well, let me share this with you, that the country is huge, The country is huge, the concerns are tremendous, and as a third world country, we sometimes struggle with access to resources or having enough capital or funds. And that is why there can be an unequal distribution or unequal reach of the resources. In that situation, the leaders, the we can consider civil servants posted in remote areas are the ones who can bring about the difference. All right. um, Fine. So with respect to this, as we further move ahead, we can reflect upon the concerns pertaining to, we can say, tolerance. And in tolerance, we all can see that life doesn't make any sense without interdependence. Okay, we need each other, and the sooner we learn that, it is better for us all. This quotation of Eric Erikson was given, and the words that were required was 115 that was supposed to explain this, and then one had to like move ahead with it. Example of Dashrath Maji. Dashrath Maji you cannot give Nagaraja, because Dashrath Maji was not constructing the road out of compassion for people to begin with. It was more like a vengeance call, that it is this like mountain because of which my wife died, because it was the hindrance due to which my wife could not reach out to the hospital. So I'll carve a root out of its belly, just like out of its belly, so that the challenge does not remain, and the mountain is not always mocking on my face that it was responsible, and it is so mighty, it is so huge that it can affect the quality of my life. So it was more like, initially there was a lot of anger, frustration, and a sense of vengeance, which you can say. And here we are talking about foundational values in civil services. So Dashrath Majhi was not a civil servant. That's why the example will not suit here. All right. How to write the introduction to the question? In the introduction, you should have discussed the very possibility pertaining to the importance of emotional intelligence, this empathy and compassion. What is the importance? Why empathy and compassion is needed for civil servants to get away from distancing trap, okay, to do away with armchair bureaucracy, to bring in we can say a sense of connect between the masses and the bureaucrats, to build trust and confidence amongst the people, to let the benefits reach out to the people. That's how you can like reflect upon. Thank you, Jeho. I'm good. So, and I hope the same from you. So, from where will we write examples? You will write examples from your own life in terms of what you are reflecting. So two examples I've already given you from the lives of civil servants who are present and serving, and in the similar manner you can just reflect upon a lot of challenges which people suffer in their daily lives, and then recalling those challenges, ask yourself that how can you solve them. So in the root of every solution, you will realize it is the concern to solve the problem that you can solve it. Resources come later. First comes the commitment to solve it, and the commitment to solve comes from the emotional connect you have for the people, because of which you feel that you have to bring about qualitative difference in their lives. All right. So that's how you get the motivation. So recall the challenges and you can just bring about the change. Improving the communication and understanding decision making, which is um, okay, increasing motivation and engagement should be there in civil servants. Yes. Excessive tolerance also leads to misplaced compassion. No, excessive tolerance can lead to other set of problems. We'll be discussing about it in a short while when we are discussing about this. Sikh gurus are one of the perfect example for compassion. Yes, Hardeep, but again, Sikh gurus are religious gurus. If the question is pertaining to civil servants specifically, then you have to do away with examples of Dashrath Maji and Sikh gurus. You have to stick to civil servants. Okay. So always remember we can consider the aspiration of the question. If you remember the aspiration of the question, any kind of distraction can be done away with. All right. Now, so as we are further moving ahead, let us start with the dimension of tolerance. All right. So with respect to tolerance, as we are moving ahead, we all can first and foremost reflect upon the idea of tolerance. What is tolerance when we are talking about it? So tolerance refers to a fair, objective, and and liberal attitude towards those whose opinions whose opinions, practices, race, rationality, etc., are different from that of one's own, in other words, it is the capacity it is the capacity of enduring the diversity of views and practices in our environment. In our environment. All right. So I hope all of you are able to reflect upon the meaning of tolerance. Just a second, it's getting too chilly and the AC temperature needs to be increased. Power chill hai kya isko on bhai? So I've slept so less. Last night I slept at 2 o'clock and got up at 4:30. So with 2.5 hours of sleep, my body is getting all warmed up. Anyway, today is thankfully Friday, so I'll get an opportunity to sleep tomorrow. Now, with respect to this, when we are discussing about the given possibility of tolerance, we all can just reflect upon the given dimension of tolerance with respect to, we can say, what we all can experience in ancient, medieval, and modern possibilities of tolerance existing in our reality. So, when we are understanding that tolerance is the liberal attitude towards others who are different from us, right? That's what it implies. So, in that situation, we can see that, suppose if someone says that, is India truly tolerant, or is India becoming intolerant? So in that situation, you need to have, like, we can consider, in that situation you can have a balance of opinion. Okay, so you don't have to write something which is tremendous and sudden, and something which is associated with few recent incidents. You have to definitely recognize and acknowledge it by saying that though there have been certain incidents which are motivated by intolerance, yet if we see the larger picture of Indian society, we all can see that India has experienced a very long history of tolerance and cultural continuity. Okay, and when we are talking about, we can say that India has a very long history of tolerance and cultural continuity. Then we all can consider this given possibility related to so India. Has a long history. India has a long history of, we can consider India has a long history of tolerance and cultural continuity. And when you are starting with this given answer, when a question is asked that is India becoming intolerant? So you will briefly acknowledge that though there have been specific incidents which are associated with intolerant activities, yet if we see the broader picture, India has largely been a tolerant country with its own cultural continuity, and you can start with respect to ancient, medieval and modern. So like let's say we can also talk about like prehistoric. And prehistoric, when we are before like going ahead with ancient, you can think of prehistoric. And under the prehistoric subsegment, you can remember the wall murals and the cave paintings and cave paintings of Bhimbetka. Bhimbetka, okay, which proves that nomadic people, which proves that nomadic people were living together, living together in groups. It is not possible, it is not possible to live as a community. It is not possible to live as a community in the absence of, in the absence of tolerance and peace, right? So you can start with the component of prehistoric. Then you can come to ancient. In ancient, you can talk about the Asokan pillars. So they have, or even the rock edicts, which speak of the message of tolerance, message of tolerance. You can also think of Chandragupta Maurya. Okay, so Chandragupta Maurya. And you can remember that Chandragupta Maurya, he embraced Jainism, right? So, embraced Jainism, yet plural religious beliefs thrived in his kingdom, thrived in his kingdom, right? You can also remember that there have been plurality of communities existing since ancient times, right? So, various sects and cults have lived together since ancient times, since ancient times. And I hope you understand what is a sect, what is a cult. A sect is a sub branch of a religion, like we can consider Shaivites, Vaishnavites, right? So Shaivites, Vaishnavites, um, you can think of like we can say, if we are talking about advent of Islam in India, first and foremost in 8th century, and but like a formidable impact in terms of like we can say that started from 12th century onwards. So we can also connect it with, we can say, the Shias and Sunnis and all that. So when we are talking about like Buddhism, we can think of like Hinayan, Mahayana, Vajrayana. When we are talking about Jainism, we can think of like Shwetambaras, Digambaras. So that's associated with sects. Okay. When we speak of cults, cult is around a spiritual leader, the belief system which develops and evolves around a spiritual leader. So in modern times, for example, you can think of Osho, you can think of Sri Sri Ravi Shankar, you can think of Osho Rajneesh, you can think of this person Sadhguru. Okay, all these people are cult leaders, and So existence of plural expressions is not something which is of modern times. It has existed since past centuries as well. So that is also a mark. The plurality of existence is a mark of acceptance and tolerance. Okay, you can also think of like one more example I can give is that of Nalanda University, right? So Nalanda University, with respect to Nalanda University, if I speak of it, so Nalanda University can be like connected with the Gupta kings, right? So the Gupta kings protected it. And what was the religion which majority of the people living in the Nalanda University followed? So you will find that there were Buddhist monks who were residing at Nalanda University, right? Again, with respect to this, when we are further reflecting upon this given dimension, we can also talk about the dimension associated with medieval times. In medieval times, you can think of Akbar's Sulh-e Kul, you can think of his Deen-e Ilahi, you can also think of the Bhakti movement, the Sufi movement, though Sufi movement is a part of Bhakti movement. Okay, so all gave the message of tolerance. The message of tolerance. Does tolerance come with suppressing one's belief and values? No. It is about believing in your own set of values, but giving others also the same freedom and respecting that people can be different from you. So, for that, you need to be present in class in time and remember the definitions when they are written. This is the definition. So, if you would have read the definition thoroughly, it is not like your own practice is getting suppressed. It is like your practice is existing simultaneously with that of others. Okay. With respect to modern India, when we are talking about it, you can start it with the constitution. Along with constitution, you can think of Nehru, you can think of Vivekananda. After Swami Vivekananda, you can think of Gandhi, right? So, and then you can just understand this given possibility that in the evolution of human history, for us 70 years is tremendous, but if we reflect upon the larger history of a country, 70 years is like turning a page or two in a history book. That's it. So even though you will see that especially after globalization, as spaces are shrinking, people are migrating, they are moving out to urban areas, resources, natural resources are shrinking, population has increased, individualism has increased, sharing will reduce, there will be a friction over the limited resources. As there will be an increase in the friction over the limited resources, all that will definitely lead to a given possibility where you will be able to see that individuals, they will have a sense of, we can say, rigor and friction towards others, and because of which an intolerant environment can get created. There will be a rise in crime, there will be a rise in, we can say, a community based friction. So all of it can be connected over here. Now, so as we are discussing about this, the question is, why is tolerance important for civil services? Okay, so first and foremost, it keeps you free from bias, free from biases. It makes you impartial. Impartiality gets promoted. We can also see that the objectivity of the value of, sorry, the value of objectivity, compassion, empathy gets promoted. Only if you are tolerant that you will be able to exercise like compassion and empathy towards other communities which are different from you. Only then you will be able to exercise objectivity, the fact that yes, the communities are different in beliefs and principles, yet all deserve the same rule of law, the same kind of treatment. So improve quality of decision in favor of disadvantageous group. Okay, but ma'am, there is varna system in ancient time, yes. So high level of religious tolerance in medieval divide and rule in modern Indian history. So ma'am, we are also exposed to intolerance, yes. We were exposed to intolerance, but in the wake of intolerance, did we lose our diversity? No, not really. Human societies have been in friction. Don't you fight with your brothers and sisters? Born out of the same parent, the siblings can have bitter rivalry towards each other. There have been times when siblings have stabbed each other or killed each other or have so much of bitter anger and animosity towards each other. So it's not something which is unheard of. It is not something which people have not lived or experienced per se when we are speaking of this given dimension. So it is very important for us to understand this. Ma'am, is tolerance acceptance for others? Yes. Tolerance is accepting others despite the differences. Okay. So we all need to understand that different leaders across the time period, they have exercised tolerance despite the fact that, like, when there will be different communities, there will be friction as well. Whenever tolerance will be lost, whenever we can say acceptance of diversity will be lost, there will be friction. Whenever there will be friction over limited resources, there will be a fight. So different cave STR, what is STR, Shanawaz? Of ancient times, such as Ellora cave, which is used by Hindu, Jain, and Buddhist. Okay, yes, you can think of such structures as well. I got it. What is STR? So, okay, kings gave resources for building temples and religious places of various religion. Yes, you can talk about it with specific examples. So that's also something which all of you can connect with. We need to respect tolerance, but it is a means always, but it is means always need to accept it. I mean, Bhuvneshwari, I don't understand the nature of the question. What do you imply to say? But yes, tolerance has to be expected and experienced and respected at all times, at all costs. Okay. Now, so with respect to this, when we are discussing about it, you can also quote over here Article 19. You can talk about Article 25, 25 to rather 30. You can also talk about, like, tolerance promotes non-partisan behavior, non-partisanship. Non-partisanship means when you are not politically discriminating. Okay, on political lines, you are not discriminating others. So non-partisanship. So it promotes non-partisanship. Okay, so non-partisan behavior is promoted. Okay, a civil servant can thrive in various situations. So a civil servant can thrive in various situations. Like, for example, you are a Jain and you get posted in Northeast. And in Northeast, you'll find that almost everyone eats non-vegetarian food. There is normal acceptance to non-vegetarian food. So there is always a scope or chance of too much of tremendous cultural shock. Okay, as you get into the services, you'll realize that the scope for cultural shock is tremendous, but you are able to live or survive that cultural shock because of the possibility pertaining to, we can consider the possibilities pertaining to the different types of, we can say, situations that a person is ready to accept. Okay, so that is also something which you can consider. So we can say all India services exposes to exposes to cultural diversity, cultural diversity. Okay, so what will happen with tolerance? With tolerance, one can cope up with cultural shocks. Cultural shocks. That, oh, how can people eat this or that or do this? Okay, so you can also see that you can deal with different types of people. It helps to deal with different types of people. Okay, so it helps to deal with different types of people, like, it can help you to, we can consider, you know like, all kinds of people. When I say different types of people, they can be orthodox, they can be irrational. You're able to deal with them more formally. So it helps you to deal with different types of people formally. Okay, formally, and rationally, right? So different types, I imply this. So that's also there, we can consider this. Again, we can also quote Voltaire here. Voltaire. So Voltaire, he said, he was a French philosopher, also connected with, you can consider, the period of enlightenment. And he said that, sir, I disagree with what you say, with what you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say so. Your right to say so. So there might be intellectual disagreement with people, but intellectual disagreement does not mean that we take away, we snatch away their right to express differences. A tolerant person is open to accept differences. Okay, we'll also connect that tolerance upholds human rights, upholds human rights of dignified life and rule of law, of dignified life and rule of law. It leads to harmony and peace in a pluralistic society. Pluralistic society. Okay. Um, we can also consider that impartiality and objectivity also need. Okay, so the two civil services values. Okay, so impartiality and objectivity also need tolerance as a precondition. Tolerance as a precondition is a precondition. If it is not fulfilled, you cannot see that people will be like able to accept differences between communities. Again, we can see that social capital of a society is proportional to tolerance. So social capital is proportional to tolerance. So that's also something which we all can consider, right? Again, you can consider that everything starts from ego. That's also another critical reflection which I can give you, that everything starts from ego or sense of self importance, sense of self importance. So, too much focus, too much focus on too much focus on one's own feelings, too much focus on one's own feelings um, can make one intolerant. Intolerant. So, when we are speaking of intolerance, you can probably consider it in this manner, that if there is intolerance, then it will lead to anger. Anger will lead to hatred. Hatred leads to unethical behavior or crime. So, unethical behavior can increase, right? Crime in a given society can increase. That's why it's very important for our leaders to be tolerant. It is important for our civil servants to be tolerant. Okay, so from politicians, leaders, everyone needs to be tolerant per se. Often these quotes are difficult to interpret in simple words. Yeah, but with multiple revisions, you start interpreting them. So that's what is the basic skill which is required to develop Akhilesh. Bhakti movement is a good example of ancient and regard to tolerance. First question is, Rahul, did Bhakti movement start in ancient India, or is it associated with medieval India? Right? So knowing facts as facts cuts down gas, it cuts down the scope for common sense. All right. How to deal with having an ego problem? It's like accepting diversity, accepting plurality, and accepting that it's natural to be diverse. Nature creates diversity. If you go to a park, you will find that as you're sitting on the bench, you will find that there are so many varieties of grass in the park. As you look at the sky, you'll see variety of birds. Even if you look at the dogs playing in the park, you'll see despite them being indie, they will be like mixed breed, okay, of different types of dogs. You look at human beings, you realize there are different races. You look at, like, we can say, languages of human beings, there are so many languages spoken across. So in that situation, you realize that I mean, even human beings did not get a language like dogs and cats and other animals by birth. Language in human beings is a learnt phenomena. So when nature was endowing all other species with language, like by birth innately, why did nature not endow human beings with language? Why did human beings not have the possibility of having language by birth? Why do we have more than like 500 languages in India alone? Why are there thousands of languages across the world? If we are talking about vernacular languages along with mainstream languages, local languages along with mainstream languages, why thousands of language? The reason is nature is pro diversity. Nature has kept us pro diversity. That's why so many races, so many languages, so many possibilities. So any person who is against diversity, who's like pro one language, pro one religion, pro one race, even before becoming unconstitutional, the person is anti nature. Not just anti constitutional, the person is anti nature. The person is not even understanding the beauty of nature and how nature has created us. So, acceptance of diversity is acceptance of the phenomena of nature, acceptance of how nature wants us to be, wants us to live, right? So, that's something which all of you can connect with. If given a chance to check on ourselves and provide chance to improve on ourselves, that will lead to criticism. Yes, you will be able to develop a sense of self criticism that ways. One follows tolerance, but if someone criticizes their religion, then in that situation one can lose tolerance. Well, if one follows tolerance and other person is criticizing the religion, the person will have clarity that this person is not motivated by tolerance, this person is not so educated and exposed to diversity. And if someone is not exposed to diversity and is passing a foolish remark, so you do not pass a foolish remark in response to foolish remark, because then you lower your status and you convert into a fool. So if someone is not educated enough, exposed enough, thinking enough, and is not like exercising diversity, you don't need to lower your standard. Either you empower the person with education, either you empower the person like with like with the importance of diversity, like in a just manner you can create that possibility, right? In a very fun manner you can create that possibility. Happily the issues can be resolved, and it has got resolved over the centuries despite differences, how communities have coexisted, right? So it's all about how you learn to respond. Getting angry in the face of someone not accepting diversity is stooping down to that level, is losing the very possibility of diversity per se. So why a civil servant accept some intolerance thing? What is accept some intolerance thing? Can you just give me an example? What does that imply? Isn't too much tolerance not good? Yeah, too much of tolerance is bad. And like because you cannot be tolerant to every situation and everything. Okay, that's also there. So like for example, you cannot be tolerant to crime, you cannot be tolerant to abuse, you cannot be tolerant to misbehavior extended towards women, children, or different religious groups. So there are certain things or situations towards which we need to exercise a no tolerance policy, right? So that's something which you need to develop. Ma'am, I'm criticizing the negative aspect of religion. Does it mean I'm intolerant? Well, negative aspect of religion is always there for the simple reason that when we tend to become fundamentalist, when we tend to, in the name of resorting to the original version of religion, when we tend to develop an ethnocentric attitude. Now, again, I used like technical jargon. Maybe I can just draw something. See, this was the next topic which I was about to discuss. Is too much tolerance bad or harmful? But we'll take it up little later. So when we are talking about the given possibility associated with tolerance, we need to understand that tolerance is not a virtuous situation at all times. Tolerance is the base of accepting diversity. The negative side is when you become intolerant. Intolerance is there. Intolerance can also be like implicit, chupa hua, hidden, and explicit when it is open. When it is explicit, you can be a fundamentalist when you are talking about your religion being better. So when you are fundamentalist, you develop ethnocentric attitude. Ethnocentric attitude. Ethnocentric attitude is having a sense of superiority towards one's religion, having a sense of superiority towards one's own religion and looking down upon other religion. Okay. So when you're looking down upon, when you are feeling that you are superior and others are inferior, so that can encourage, when you're looking down upon, that can encourage separation and hatred. Okay. When hatred magnifies, hatred magnifies, it leads to, so when hatred magnifies, what does it lead to? So we'll see it leads to communalism, communal riots, communalism. Okay. So the manifestation of intolerance in the most explicit manner, in its most extreme form. Okay. So communalism is extreme form of intolerance, right? So that's something which you can consider. So when you have separation, when you have a sense of hatred, that's how you develop a sense of rigidity, anger, okay, all kinds of stupid notions. Okay, tolerance is also, like, a virtue, but I would say in conditions where a country is reviving from a civil war or any kind of strained situation, then tolerance is fine. Above tolerance, we can say there should be acceptance. Acceptance of the fact that yes, we are diverse. We were always diverse and we shall remain diverse. No civilization, no country, no part of the world is free from diversity. Human beings are born diverse. No two families are the same. No two siblings are the same. So, diversity is the game of the nature. So, when you accept that, yes, there will be different aspirations, communities, thought processes, methods of behavior, and survivability, that's called acceptance. Above acceptance, there is appreciation. Appreciation that, wow, we are diverse. It is so amazing that because we are diverse, we are open, or we are exposed to the possibility of knowing so much about different cultures, living so many possibilities associated with different cultures. So that is something which we all can connect with, this given possibility. So according to you, the organizations like Bajrang Dal, Vishwa Hindu Parishad promote communalism. They do promote separation, they do promote hatred, because when you're over regimenting towards one's own, we can consider towards one's own ideology and consider other ideologies inferior, whether it is simi or it is VHP. They can belong to different religions, but the temperament is similar. They both possess ethnocentric attitude, a sense of superiority towards their own belief systems and considering others as foolish, considering others as inferior. Above appreciation, there is love. This is the benevolent form of love which you exercise towards the entire humanity, irrespective of the differences that people have. And that is something which promotes and strengthens diversity to its utmost level. So, whether we talk of Kabir Das or we talk of Raidas, we talk of Tulsi Das, we talk of Rahim, we talk of Ras Khan, we talk of Dadu Dayal, okay, all these individuals are remembered because through their poetry, through their expressions, through their messages to the world, they were trying to spread love. Okay, so that's how you're supposed to discuss this given dimension, right? So extremism in any religion is not good. Yeah, definitely, I mean, like, that's there. So ma'am, give ma'am, example of them can be given. Yes, example can be given. So very true, example can definitely be given. Tolerance is different for different people, religion, caste. So how can objectivity be its prerequisite? ये होता है ओवर समझदारी. सुनो, सत्यम, I did not say this sentence. This is your own personal interpretation. I said that for having an objective approach, remember objectivity, yesterday we studied. So, for having an objective approach, having tolerance is a prerequisite condition. Means only when you are tolerant that you can be objective. If you are not a tolerant person, you cannot be an objective person. Because only when you are tolerant, you understand that people can be different. And the common rules, regulations which are there, which I have to adhere as a civil servant, it may not, all the rules, regulations may not be in consonance with my religious beliefs and thought processes. So while I am exercising my beliefs, religious beliefs and thought processes, I have to be clear about this given fact that in the process of living it, in the process of experiencing it, like, I have to be very clear about how I am, like, like exercising my thought process towards all the different communities, so that at all times I'm respecting the rule of law. Okay, I hope that's clear. So, conservative and radical ideology should not exist in any religion. It's conservative and radical ideology does not exist in a religion. It is the faulty interpretation of the followers which leads to the conservative outlook. Okay, it is the faulty interpretation of the followers. I mean, when the Deobandi school writes an incorrect interpretation of the term jihad, it is only then that people tend to get scared by the term jihad. Whereas jihad never implies what the Deobandi school writes about jihad. Right? So it's the faulty interpretation which creates the problem. Jihad literally means getting free from your own vices, getting free from your own demerits. And the same thing is spoken in Hinduism as dharma, artha, dharma, sorry, kama, krodh, lobh, moh, mad. Okay, so kam, krodh, lobh, moh, mad, one should try to free oneself from that. Means one should try to free oneself from material engagement, anger, okay, any kind of greed, desire, like, so when we are talking about this laziness, so one needs to free oneself from these vices. It's spoken in Hinduism. In Islam, it is considered as the highest form of jihad when you are able to fight with your own negativities, when you are able to fight and win over your own demerits. In Buddhism, it is discussed as the middle path. When you are able to create a balance, strike a balance, then you are walking the middle path. So every religion speaks of it. But you gain that sense of understanding only when you are ready to read, when you are ready to learn the correct version. With a faulty interpretation, majority of Hindus have never read the original Hindu texts. They know what they have heard from some babas or some spiritual gurus, that they are reading, they are interpreting, and these people are like just nodding that, wow, 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 what my babaji said, what an amazing interpretation. Same applies to Muslims. Majority of Muslims have not read the original Quran Sharif and tried to interpret, because there are different interpretations to the same Quran because of different schools of thought. Okay, similarly in Bible we have the Old Testament and the New Testament. So when we speak of the given possibility of, or the scope of, we can say, tolerance and love, we have to be open to the idea that there are diverse or pluralistic religions existing in the world. Only when we accept, only when we appreciate, that we are able to exercise love and tolerance in totality. Tolerance involves acceptance also. So how is it above tolerance? Isn't it a subset within tolerance? Tolerance, ilma, just look into the word. Isn't tolerance associated with capability to tolerate? In tolerate, is it a very happy word? In tolerate, are you not just somehow forcefully adjusting? So there is a forceful adjustment because you know there is no way out. So tolerance is associated with conscious effort made towards adjustments, whether you like it or not. So what is better? Adjustments, like because you don't have a way out, or is it acceptance? Right? So sometimes you need to do some dhyan after doing the darshan on the board. And as you do the dhyan, you are able to understand what I imply to say and what is the term associated with. Right? So the term used for jihad in Hinduism, there is no translation of jihad in Hinduism. I said that Hinduism also talks to get free from one's vices. Panch vikar. Okay, it is called panch vikar. So you have to get rid of the panch vikar. Vikar means five vices. And the five vices are associated with kama, krodh, lobh, moh, mad. All right, Hardeep? So if someone does not accept tolerance, then as a civil servant, what should we do against him? Nothing. You don't need to do anything. The system shall take care of him or her. All right. So, ma'am, we have tolerance from ancient times, but it is, is it true present? No. What do you want to write? Are we not diverting in a rally of secular person like PM? There is a slogan like Jai Shri Ram. Are these things not diverting? Okay. You imply to say that why is there intermingling of religion in the scope and space for intolerance? See, uh, identity politics helps to garner votes. People may not get consolidated in the lines of class. Poor people, if you go into a slum, you will see that poor people will not be united on the lines of class, that, oh, all of us are poor, so let's get united and let us raise our voice together as a poor class. Doesn't happen. The middle class does not get united that, oh, we have common conditions, let us unite as a middle class and let us raise our voice associated with our needs and aspirations. No, that doesn't happen. Generally, people are divided in the lines of religion, they are divided in the lines of caste. So even if you go to a slum, you will see people will be exercising differences towards each other on the basis of difference of their religion, their caste, their race, their community, all of it, when we are discussing about the same. So in the wake of such a situation or in such a scenario, we all can connect with the given possibility that as communities, they we can consider as the communities, they struggle to, like, let their possibilities be felt. As communities, they struggle to let their, we can consider, conditions be experienced. Okay, we need to understand that how the role of a bureaucrat becomes so critical, because in the name of canvassing, as vote bank politics becomes dirty, in the name of canvassing means promoting one's candidate, political candidate. So in that, identity politics is promoted, like caste based politics, religious politics, ethnic politics, regional politics, all that. So in that space, what happens is that when politics and religion, they intermingle, they make the game quite dirty, and because of which hate crimes can be sometimes exercised. And when hate crimes are exercised, when the bureaucrats are not exercising tolerance, they let that hate crime get articulated or manifested at a larger level. When that happens at a larger level, it is human rights that's violated, it is people's rights that violated. Like, for example, in 1984, when the Sikh riots happened, the Sikh riots could not have happened for days together across different parts of the country only because people wanted to riot here. Those areas where civil servants were more pro, where they used the police and the forces to their benefit, the intensity of violence was controlled. Only those areas where the political leaders also fanned the fire and they encouraged the articulation of, we can say, the possibility of exercising violation of human rights, and the bureaucrats subtly supported it. It is then that violence occurred. I can give you an example, like it happened in the year 2013, October. There was a procession that was taken out associated with Durga Puja in Ayodhya. And as the procession was moving out, um, it was moving from a Muslim community. So a stone was hurled and it hit the statue of Durga, and maybe the hand or the neck, something broke, and it like was dangling, it was hanging. So to which what happened was that the mob got very angry and immediately a communal riot outbroke. Now, what happened was that the CM was very particular that the riot should not blow out of proportion. If this has happened, it needs to be contained. So, Section 144 was like executed, and as Section 144 was slapped in the given region, along with that, it was said to the senior bureaucrats that let not violence spread. Despite, like, the efforts made by the administration, within 48 hours, not only in Faizabad city, which was closer to Ayodhya and Faizabad are twin cities. So in Faizabad, like at least 20-25 shops were burnt, which were owned by Muslims. A lot of, we can say, people were beaten up. Four or five people also died. The riots also reached in the nearby villages. So within 3 days, the administration took control of the situation and it cut down the possibility of riots. It did not let the spreading of the rioteering like wildfire. The administration, the IS officers, the IPS officers, the paramilitary, all of them worked in coordination and the situation was doused. Now, let us connect it with the possibility of Godhra. In Godhra, the Gujarat riots, the Bombay High Court directly said in its remark that Gujarat riots could not be possible without the administrative support and involvement. because the riots lasted for almost a month. So that is why the Bombay High Court made this remark that without administrative support and the involvement of officials from the administration, the riot could not have blown so much out of proportion. The same thing applies to Kokrajhar riots. The same thing applies to the exodus of Kashmiri Pandits from the Kashmir Valley. Any such exponential level of violence cannot take place till the time the administration is letting it happen. Because always remember, the administration is better equipped with arms, ammunition, trained personnel. So, if the administration is up to exercising and executing the protection and propagation of human rights, it can always take control of a given situation and let not violence blow up out of proportion. So, whether it was Sikhs or Hindus, Muslims or Christians suffering in any part of India in the wake of communal riots, whereby the riot blew out of proportion and it simmered for days together, weeks together. Okay, then in that situation, if it is happening for weeks or for months, remember, the implicit, the hidden support of the administration will always be there. That's why a civil servant needs to be tolerant. If you are not tolerant, you are going to impact the life of hundreds and thousands of people, their livelihood, their family members, their sense of protection, their security. Everything can be put to threat, everything can be jeopardized. All right. So, um, well, Manipur issue is not only associated with religion, it is associated with the component of ethnicity, the tribal friction. It is associated with the challenges pertaining to, we can also consider, even you won't be able to believe, but even a drug racket is involved. There are so many overlapping issues when we speak of it. So, when we speak of riots, and communal riots specifically, communal riots are pertaining to religion, then you have to stick to religious examples. You cannot mix caste based violence, you cannot mix ethnic or tribal violence in it. Okay, be very clear about it. So, do we get training in Labasna how to deal with ministers when they try to influence our decisions? Yes, even if you are preparing ethics topic properly, the code of ethics and code of conduct gives you that clarity. When you are preparing the chapters associated with foundational values for civil services thoroughly, you get an idea. So you can read it in the book that is prescribed for all of you by the institute. You take your time. It's not necessary that you are rushing with the book. Take your time, go slow, bit by bit. There is also a code of conduct for ministers, there is code of conduct for civil servants. All those chapters are given. Read it. When you'll read, you'll realize what are the do's and don'ts which a civil servant needs to follow. Tolerance, when we are speaking of it, see, like I can give you a political example. So when Vajpayee ji was young, so what happened that he was an MP, and he spoke very caustically of like Nehru. Okay, and with a deep sense of sarcasm towards his decision that he made. Similarly, but Nehru ji, whenever he met Vajpayee, he said that you are a young and budding leader. You are the promise of the nation. So you can see that Nehru ji, when he heard, like I still remember, there was this quotation which was often quoted by my grandpa, that Ram Manohar Lohia was very disappointed with the attack of China on India. So he rebuked Nehru in the parliament. He said that your poor decision making skills, your possibility of giving out our details associated with preparedness of army, preparedness for a war, is responsible for China attacking us, because the Chinese premier came to India, just got to get an idea of the preparedness of Indians pertaining to a war. And when the Chinese premier went back after visiting India, it's then only that within a month he launched an attack on India. So the Hindi Chini Bhai Bhai fell on the face of Nehru, and his spirit of tolerance was heavily criticized, which cost life and we can say also resources for the nation, because every leader at all times is not taking right decisions, because any and every leader learns with mistakes, but who has to pay the price of the mistake? The country. So Nehru was deeply saddened. It is considered that his untimely death was due to the deep blow that he received because of the attack of China. Anyway, so Nehru, in the parliament, Ramdhari Singh Dinkar also rebuked him. He was an MP, a Congress MP in the parliament, and he also criticized him for the war of 1962. Along with that, you can also see that in the parliament, as I was sharing with, other than Ramdhari Singh Dinkar, I was sharing about Ram Manohar Lohia. So Lohia said that we have lost like a lot of land to China, to which, like, Nehru sheepishly said that the land was not so fertile, though we should not have lost it, but it was not so fertile. To which Lohia got very infuriated and he said that your head does not have too much of hair. So what does that mean? Should it be cut off? Just imagine speaking like that to the Prime Minister. Can today any MP of Rajya Sabha or Lok Sabha think of using this language for the PM in the Parliament? So you can understand that uh, a good leader is open to receive criticism. A good leader is open to understand that not everyone is going to appreciate, and there will be a lot of rebuking and criticism coming his or her way. And it is through the criticism that balance in democracy is maintained. And the quotation of Voltaire that all of you can remember, which he said. So, when Voltaire said this specific statement, as all of you can see, that, sir, I disagree with what you say, but I will defend to death your right to say so. So, I may not approve of what you are saying. There can be things which I do not like what you are alleging or saying, but you do have a right to say even dissenting opinions which are different from what I believe or hold to be true. That is the mark of tolerance, that is the mark of diversity. All right, so I hope all of you are able to understand this. So, when we are speaking of the possibility of diversity, diversity keeps democracy vibrant. Diversity uh, is entertained only when a leader is tolerant. And that's how you see that Nehru is recalled as a tolerant leader. All right. Now, when we are discussing about this idea, is too much tolerance bad or harmful? To which, to this question, definitely we will say yes, that too much of tolerance is also bad or harmful. And here you can think of, like, for example, you can think of Nehru's policy towards China. It was due to tolerance that he became a victim of the war. And he got the deep blow because he never wanted to let the country experience war, and because of which it is considered he got a cardiac arrest, and untimely death happened to him because he was deeply saddened by what the countrymen had to undergo. If you get to know the details of the war, the way the soldiers died, you will be like, even today you will be shaken. Anyway, so his policy towards China, his policy towards Pakistan, you can think of that. Again, you can think of example of Yudhishthira, because we have quoted Mahabharata quite often. So you can think of Yudhishthira. So Yudhishthira was too tolerant towards Kauravas. Okay, towards Kauravas, Yudhishthira was too tolerant, right? Similarly, you can remember that even because when I'm discussing about Mahabharata, there is a character called Shishupal. And Krishna said that I'll be tolerant towards 100 mistakes of yours. But the moment you create the 101st mistake, I will behead you. So tolerance can be exercised only to a specific level. We need to understand that there has to be a zero tolerance policy towards specific activities or situations, right? For example, we can think of like rape cases, we can think of acid attacks, we can think of corruption, we can think of harassment, right? So we need to be like, mhm, mhm, right? So we need to be very clear towards it. Yes, you can think of terrorism. Kauravas were the brothers, the eldest Sakib being Duryodhana. Okay, so that's what. Again, after terrorism, yes, you can think of, we can consider it to be associated with dowry, right? So, as all of you are proposing, yes, domestic violence, yes, anyone threatening the national security, we have to have a zero tolerance policy. Yes, child labor, child marriage, yes, abuse of any form, harassment of any form. Yes, so all of you are able to get an idea associated with this. Remember in Mission Impossible, there was a dialogue, desperate measures are needed in desperate times, or ulta tha shayad. Desperate times needs desperate measures. This was the dialogue. So that's what. If situations are desperate, you cannot go tolerant towards it. You have to take coercive action. Okay. So that is something which all of you need to understand. Okay. You can write down that if we take a larger view, then any form of injustice, any form of injustice inflicted upon others, inflicted upon others is a reflection of intolerance. Reflection of intolerance. Intolerance is antagonistic to antagonistic antagonistic to free thinking, free thinking, and promotes violation of human rights and violence. Violation of human rights and violence. It is a reflection of narrow mindedness, of narrow mindedness, and is against civilized way of living. All right. And this statement you can use even in essay, not just in ethics. You can use it in essay or in GS answer in paper 1 also. You have the topic of secularism, communalism. There also you can take this wisdom and you can use it over there. All right. So fine. Now, with this given clarification, as all of you are gaining this insight, we can step into the term integrity. So there was this question in 2021 that integrity is a value that empowers the human being, empowers the human being. So justify with suitable illustration. Now you can see in ethics paper, remembering examples is very important, right? So what is advisable? Suppose you are writing intolerance. Write 5 examples of intolerance, 5 examples of tolerance, and write examples of tolerance exercised by civil servants. Again, similarly, when you are like uh, uh, preparing the topic of integrity, accountability, any such subtopic, make keywords, and along with memorizing the keywords, key definitions, also remember examples, because continually I'm showing you questions whereby like examples, it is expected that you remember the examples, right? So meaning of integrity, when we reflect upon it, it is coming from the word integritas. It literally means wholeness, soundness. Okay. And when we are talking about wholeness and soundness, integrity, wholesome, integration, wholesome possibility. So integrity refers to consistency in our conduct. What is consistency in our conduct? So consistency in the conduct means at all times there is alignment, alignment in thought, speech, and action. Thought, speech, and action means what you think is what you speak, is what you behave, what you act. When you are supposed to act, you are acting upon what you think or what you say to people. I am this kind of person, I want to do this, if I were this, I would have done this. Okay, so there is integration or there is alignment in your thought, speech, and action. It is then that integrity is exercised. There is consistency, continuity, there is a perennial expression in one's conduct. So when we are speaking of it, the OECD countries, when we reflect upon it, it defines like integrity, the like association or the organization of OECD. OECD, you must be aware, it is related to oil diplomacy. It is associated with the developed countries who are related to this oil diplomacy. So they define integrity as it is application of generally accepted values and norms in daily practice. So as we are reflecting upon this, how many examples are adequate to be given in the answer? You have to majorly, like, exercise, I will say, explanation and critical reflection of the concept. In the process, if you are giving even 3 examples, suppose the question is saying illustrate with suitable examples, so in 150 words giving 3 examples is also more than enough. If you are struggling with word limit, even 2 examples will work, but at least keep 2. You can maintain 3. If someone has power of penmanship and can write in gist, then 4 can go, but more than that is impossible to write. Okay, because you have to also focus on explanation, critical reflection, analysis, because example is what? Substantiation of it. Elaborate, like, example is what? Elaboration of the concept. So example is mere elaboration. Focus on the critical reflection. The consonance between the two creates a great answer. All right, not get zero tolerance means intolerance means please tell Aris. Correctly put, SME. You are not able to get the question. Even I could sense that some rephrasing is required. No problem. Shalu, zero tolerance means not being tolerant in any condition, in any situation towards that act. So one should exercise zero tolerance if someone is slapping you or harassing you. It should not be tolerated, even if the person is your brother, even if the person is your spouse, even if the person is known to you. Whatever crime you may do, it is the law of the land which is supposed to take action against you. No one gets the right, practically no one gets the right to hit you, harm you, or harass you. So a policy of zero tolerance needs to be exercised in all situations and conditions. समझ में आ गया? ठीक है? Sometimes empathetic connect helps us to understand situations well. So please tell us about difference between honesty, probity, and integrity. Sure, Rahul, we will be reflecting upon that. So honesty, when we are speaking of the given situation, it is associated with the present, like we can say, state of existence, whereby you are exercising the act of being honest. So it is the act of being honest in the moment, that is honesty. Okay, when the present act is full of transparency and it is in the line of truth. Integrity is maintaining honesty at all times, and probity is being corruption free in administration. So the three are quite connected to each other, but this is the hairline difference. All right. Zero tolerance accepted in society? Accepted in society. Nisha, zero tolerance is accepted in law. Zero tolerance is accepted in our human existence. Will you accept, Nisha, you tell me, someone beating your parents and burning your parents? No, na. You will have a zero tolerance policy towards anyone exercising violence towards your loved ones or exercising violence towards you. Are you getting it now? Yeah. So Saqib, I have already discussed difference between honesty, integrity and probity, right? So I hope you have understood. Zero tolerance, everyone has got it. I gave such like extreme examples, but sometimes you tend to understand and connect with extreme examples. That's why I just gave it, so that everyone is able to visualize, like, no, 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 I cannot be tolerant toward this situation, I cannot exercise kindness and forgiveness in those situations, right? That's what, there are certain things towards which you cannot like forgive or exercise kindness. You will take rule of law, or you will encourage the rule of law to take action, and that is how you try to solve the problem. All right. So, but Gandhiji said that if someone slaps you, oh, Gandhiji did not only say this, Satyam, that if someone slaps you, you like raise your other side so that the person slaps you there also. He said that for the maintenance of law, order, and justice, if violence has to be resorted, and that is the last resort, then it becomes unavoidable, inevitable to exercise it in the larger interest of human rights. Okay, but that should be the last resort. ये सब कौन पढ़ेगा? ये भी तो पढ़ना जरूरी है. That is also important to study, right? Uh, yeah, probity is a chapter, Pawan. Something is called patience and another thing is called awareness. With awareness, you know the syllabus and then you know which topic is where placed in the syllabus. So you will, Pawan, realize that probity is the last chapter, right? And that's awareness. And patience comes from it, because when you are aware what chapter has to be taught when, then you have the awareness that how you have to exercise a sense of like calmness, that okay, when the topic will come, then I shall know the details of it. Okay. Okay. So yes, do or die bhi diya tha. So very true, Shanwaz. So saying that, I mean, and do or die, in die there is violence when you are inflicting self violence upon yourself. So Gandhiji's idea of non violence needs to be studied by all of you. I will see to it that a lot of notes is sent. There is notes in bullet points which I have got it created. So the bullet point notes is how you should prepare notes. Okay, I got it prepared like by one of the students, that this is how the notes ought to be prepared. So that ethics notes, the bullet point notes will also be shared, in which I have shared a lot of Indian thinkers and philosophers, in which there is a detailed explanation of Mahatma Gandhi. I won't be explaining the segment associated with Indian philosophers and thinkers because it is exhaustively a part of your history syllabus. It is there in your history syllabus because you have Buddhism, Jainism, Mahatma Gandhi, Jawaharlal Nehru, all these segments are there in your history. So, no point of repeating it, and also there is a delimitation to the sessions, right? So, probably I can explain that how to handle Indian philosophers and thinkers through question and answer session. Okay, Q&A, that how questions can be raised, how they should be responded. So it's not that I'll leave it, I'll deal with it, but through Q&A. Okay, and I'll support you more with content related to that area. All right, because it's already taught in history. So that's how we'll go ahead with that. And with that notes, as that note reaches you, just read about Mahatma Gandhi in greater detail. So, Gandhi's philosophy and ideals are discussed in greater detail. That is something which will help you bring clarity. In zero tolerance, we need to do or die. You mean not in zero tolerance, Saqib? I did not use the term do or die in zero tolerance. I was explaining do or die with respect to Gandhi, because one of your friends randomly asked that ma'am about Mahatma Gandhi, and to which we were responding. It was not connected to zero tolerance. So please don't try to connect two different dimensions. Okay, it will be uploaded in the ARM section. Okay, today there is no internet in this office. It's like through the LAN cable that the lecture is running, because early morning itself I had written it to the course coordinator, and the message is not reaching out to him. So I'm like really troubled by this given possibility, because the studio is in the basement, so the message is not reaching out to him. So when I'm after the class, when I step outside and I work towards other dimensions, it's then that I can make a difference. All right, so probably, let's see. there are so many things that needs to be balanced. Even after this session there is a meeting, and then there is the next session of optional, and then there is a tech team meeting. There's so much, and that I'm today rattled. And again the evening class is there. But for sure your notes shall get uploaded by tomorrow, for sure. I can ensure you that, because today I'll make a call and I'll ensure that it is done. All right. So I mean, from my part it will be done by today. Like, and I believe the tech team, if it is diligent, it will be able to do so by, if they do it by today, it will be great. But from my side the instruction shall be like shared. So let us do something. Let us take a break and get back with the concept of integrity. So it is like 7:42. Let us take a 15 minutes break, um, and be back. Welcome back, all of you. So, China followed zero tolerance policy towards COVID 19, but it completely backfired because they were unable to execute it properly. Hmm. Laura Singer, she said that Schlesinger means she is a Jew, and people with integrity do what they say they are going to do. Yeah, that's what I said. Alignment of thought, speech, and action. Rahul. Can we write the example of rising cases of cow vigilantism is rising intolerance? Yes, definitely. Any form of vigilantism where the citizens they resort to, like, taking action whereby it creates a rupture in law and order is associated with this given problem, because protection of cow and milk is under DPSP, the role of the state. And India since ancient times has had, like, animal fates or Pashu Mela. In the animal fates, old animals were always sold off or disposed by the farmers because they could make some extra money. And that had been a standard practice for centuries together. Now, today, the farmers are really scared when they are taking the animals to the Pashu Mela or the animal fates or animal fair, whatever you call it. 11 men were sent to jail. Yeah, that can be connected to the possibility of how we are interpreting the law as well. Pulkit. Tolerance brings peace and tranquility in the society. Yes. Um, in my experiments with truth, uh, enough to know Gandhiji. Yeah, it will give you a first-hand experience of what he thought and why he thought it. Though bullet points is needed to interpret and understand, so that's something which is created with respect to the notes. So use it to your advantage. All right. So youth is stage me love से expect क्या है हम यूथ इस स्टेज में लव से अफेक्टेड हो जाते हैं कोई ट्रिक्स टू अवॉइड देम दैट्स प्रीटी इनोसेंट ask about the purpose of any and every emotion. So there is a stage to experience every emotion. So it is considered that one should exercise brahmacharya while attainment of knowledge and wisdom, right? Because the energy is concentrated in the direction of attainment of wisdom. So it is personal insecurity that we try to fulfill by getting love and care from outside, from another person, whoever the person is, friend, family, relatives, anyone. So it is our own sense of insufficiency and insecurity that we try to fill with other people's emotions. Okay, and there is the root cause of dependency, and the dependency, when you lose control over your peace and comfort, your sense of existence, then it is in the other person's hand to, like, keep you connected and focused towards your goal or rattle it up. So that's why, Shanwaz, I can share this, that how you can save yourself from any romantic gestures if you really want to save but you are unable to do so. So examples of integrity, we'll come to it. Bureaucracy is becoming very challenging. Bureaucracy has always been challenging, but you have to understand there is hierarchy of power. In the hierarchy of power, ministers, because it's democracy, so ministers have always been on a higher rung in the hierarchy of power. So you have to accept this given dimension that it is unavoidable. Um, Today's world, to corrupt an information is very easy. So totally being a practicing zero tolerance, is it valid? Hmm? Well, if you have a zero tolerance policy towards corruption, you will let not any kind of violation of rights take place. For example, if some corrupt act happens to you, what will you expect, Hardeep? You will expect, no, that that there is transparency that is exercised, justice is exercised, you get access to your rights when injustice has happened to you. So you will want that there is an honest, transparent system, corruption free system, right? And if it is not there, that is something which is going to affect your peace and order of mind. So just think like that, connect it like that. For example, very recently in Uttarakhand, posters were circulated to threaten Muslims to vacate the areas because there were allegations of Hindu girl being raped. Well, that is something, Pulkit, which I'll tell you. On and off, you'll get many such examples pertaining to such acts and pertaining to responses to such acts. Anytime there is friction between two communities, whether it is associated with gender justice, whether it is associated with, we can consider, distribution of resources like access to water, control over land, like cultivable land or anything as such. So whenever there is friction over resources or friction over human rights, whether it is associated with gender justice at all, in that situation the angle of religion if involved, there will be a high chance of communalism flaring up, though the prime reason for friction will not be religious ideology per se, the religious differences per se. The reason will be something else, but it will articulate into communal violence. That's how it happens. All right. So, bureaucracy is very much challenging where ministers, I have already, like Mrityunjay shared this very thing, that where ministers make people intolerant in the name of religion. So for that reason, you have to always upkeep constitutional values. Ministers are not above constitution. So bureaucrat is supposed to protect and propagate the constitutional values at all times. In the furthering of the same, they have to also listen to the ministers because the constitution regards the hierarchy. So that's how the dynamics works. There's only one majority ideology of government. If one is against the government of such ideology, taking no pillar will weaken the integrity of the state. Well, no, not really. Plurality of ideologies strengthens democracy. If anyone is saying that supporting one ideology will lead to supporting of the government, and supporting of the government is nationalism, or supporting of the government is service towards the nation, that's a faulty interpretation. Service towards nation is maintaining balance in democracy, like debate and dissent, diversity and pluralism of opinions. All right. So, political tolerance decline has declined with time. Yeah, I mean, like there will be always rigors and frictions because there will be, challenges pertaining to gaining balance and gaining more power. So, all of it will be put to action. While considering religious tolerance, we should look at a wider side and should not consider small happenings. They are common in a big democracy. Well, you can consider it like with respect to this, that in a huge democratic country, there will be a lot of frictions on and off that may occur. So, as we understand the meaning of integrity, okay, that integrity is, we can consider, it is willing to act openly and consciously on the basis of moral reflection, as Carter suggests it. Okay. So it is willing to act openly, means where there is transparency being exercised, consciously, whereby there is thought that is exercised, which leads to moral reflection. Again, we can say Doble. What is Doble saying? So Doble is equating integrity with values like incorruptibility, honesty, impartiality, and accountability. Right. So Doble is like equating integrity with all these terms, that when we say integrity, it means you are not corrupt, you are an honest and upright person, you are not a partial person, you are an accountable person. So what is integrity? The government of India defines integrity as consistently, means at all times, behaving in an open, fair, transparent manner, honoring one's commitments, and these are the keywords that you need to memorize: honoring one's commitments and upholding the public service values. All right. So you can like memorize this definition and you can put it to action. All right. When we are speaking of this given dimension. So with respect to this, when we are, yes, you can quote the constitution also, Deepika. Now let's get back to integrity as we are substantiating it. So who is a person of integrity? So a person of integrity is someone who's morally aware, is at all times consistent. There is no dissonance in terms of what the person thinks, speaks, and acts. Okay. So remember the physical gesture that I make: what you think, what you speak, and what you act. Okay. There should be consistency in that at all times. So integrity violations means when there is loss of integrity. Okay, so there will be gifting, there will be bribery, there will be fraud, there can be theft, there can be breaking the rules or misuse of power occurring in the system, which you can think of. And how do you like display integrity? It is by being open, honest, honoring your commitment, following the rules, enforcing law, public service values, rules and regulations in difficult situation, right? It is with respect to this that when we are talking about it, psychologically we can see our life can be parted in different at different levels, and that is how we can recognize integrity at different levels. So first is moral integrity, or it can also be referred as personal integrity, which is associated with individual context. So with respect to individual context, when we are talking about moral integrity, as I said, that when there is like we can say consistency in thought, speech, and action. Okay, we can also see that there is internal locus of control, right? There is internal locus of control. Integrity does not change. Okay, it does not change with changing situations. Okay, it doesn't change with change in situations, right? For example, like let us say a student, a civil services aspirant, prepares the topic of women empowerment, writes an essay on women empowerment, and after selection, if the person is taking dowry, in that situation, what is there? Loss of integrity. The person is not exercising integrity. Okay, so that's something which all of you can connect with. So with respect to this, when we are reflecting upon the given dimension, you can see similar kind of example can be considered. Like for example, someone is talking about animal rights. In the name of animal rights, the person is talking about dogs, cats, tigers, elephants, but the person is ready to eat chicken, mutton, fish. So again, there is loss of integrity. Okay, so you can see that there is duality in the possibility of talking about animal rights. All animals have life. So you cannot say, you cannot be selective that, oh, dogs are lovely, dogs are very cute, we cannot eat dogs, horses are very cute, we cannot eat horse. Okay. So you have to understand this given possibility. Integrity is just opposite of hypocrisy. Okay. Integrity is just opposite of hypocrisy. So with respect to there, when we are speaking of it, again you can see this dimension associated with, again if you think of more examples, you can think of climate change. Okay, climate change. You can think of it with respect to child labor. People want cheap goods, so they won't shy away from using child labor or goods which have been produced using child labor. So child labor, climate change, we have dual standards associated with it. Yes, you can also think of Gandhiji not having jaggery. That was also an example whereby there was an old lady who came to Gandhiji and she complained that her grandson eats a lot of jaggery. So she was like, sir, if you say, then it will impact him tremendously. So how about, sir, you advising the child and making an impact upon the child? So I was like, he was like, okay, do something, come after a week. So she was like, fine. After a week, when the child came with his grandmother, he said that please don't eat jaggery. It is so bad for you. It can harm you at so many levels. This can happen, that can happen. Body can produce more heat. You can get a lot of pimples. You can get wounds. Wounds won't heal. So all that stuff. When he said, then in that situation, uh, the grandmother, she became very like surprised. She was like, sir, you could have said the same thing a week back. So to which Gandhiji said that yes, I could have, but only if I was myself not addicted to eating jaggery after food. I myself liked jaggery so much that after every meal I used to have a little piece of it, and I knew that it's not suitable for me at all times. So how could I preach that to a child, something which I was not practicing? So it is walking the talk. Got it, all of you? And the student who is saying that how climate change will impact integrity, Nagaraj, it was an example that people may speak about climate change, they may speak in favor of protecting the climate, working towards climate change, but still they may continue to use plastic, chlorofluorocarbons laden, we can say, gadgets. Okay, so that's how there is inconsistency or lack of integrity. All right, so that's what you can consider. जैगरी, जैगरी मीन्स गुड़, गणेश, हिंदी में उसको गुड़ बोलते हैं, एंड जैगरी इज JAGGERY, okay, not jagari. So even plants have life. So why only animal eaters are considered bad? Agreed, like Satyam, but it's order of life. The higher or the bigger the animal, the greater it is considered. The component of conscience gets connected. Like for example, if an elephant is killed or dies, a lion is killed or dies. If, like, let us say, a whale is killed or dies, if a dolphin is killed or dies, it will be very different from a little sardine dying. Okay, a little tiny sardine dying, an ant dying, a mosquito dying. So size does matter in terms of our level of conscience, right? And this size is quite, I would say, dynamic in terms, like suppose 10 ants have died, that will impact differently, but 10 lions have died, it will impact us differently, right? So when we are speaking of this given dimension associated with life, again we can see that the plant base is needed less. Lesser number of plants are needed to be consumed and to satiate need of human beings, compared to the number of animal and the resource that an animal uses to, like, let us say, go ahead with it. But again, there has to be a balanced approach towards it, because the entire world cannot switch to vegetarianism. The earth is neither prepared nor will be able to support and sustain such a practice. So there has to be a balance to every practice, and every practice needs to be there in moderation. And anyway, 78% of Indians are non-vegetarians, if you go by the chart which was published in Indian Express just few months back. So entire northeast, entire southern India, majority of the parts of northern India, you'll find is non-vegetarian. Only few pockets of, we can say, western parts of India, northwestern parts of India, practices vegetarianism, to be specific. Yes, Deepika, that's what, like, death for purpose, and killing someone meaninglessly for we can say taste. So that's what can be connected with. Um, can we say sometimes religious tolerance to take form of communalism? Religious tolerance does not convert into communalism. Lack of religious tolerance leads to communalism. Okay, Rahul. uh, Munna, you're asking that, ma'am, we introduced cheetah in Kuno National Park, and for feeding them, deer and other animals were introduced. Yes, it is perfectly fine, because when you're introducing an animal to a biome, and if the biome does not have sufficient access of vegetarian animals, and that is the food for the other animal, so you have to have an objective approach towards the fact. So Yeah, Subbarao is a bit organized. I like not so organized the way like the chapter is given or the way I'm teaching. I do understand that, but you can just like read it in little subtopics. Okay, just in little subtopics. That's how you can handle it. That's the only way to handle it. All right. So, like Utkarsh, if you are struggling with it, just take little subtopics like if I'm saying integrity, so types of integrity, purpose of integrity, impact of integrity, just read like little chunks of it, that's it. So can we say that no one has absolute moral integrity? Well, there are practitioners across the world who are social reformers or people of high levels of uprightness. There are ascetics. Okay, there are spiritual people who exercise integrity at all levels, we can say. Okay, so okay, now please support me, SME. I'm moving ahead with the sub segment pertaining to this level of integrity when we are talking about it. So personal integrity cannot be imposed through, like we can say, external control. It comes from moral and intellectual reasoning. Okay, so we can consider this given dimension that personal integrity cannot be imposed. It comes imposed from external control. कौन लिखेगा पूरा लिख दो, because you people won't be able to understand the word imposed. Imposed is always external. It is always coming from outside. So cannot be imposed through external control. Cannot be imposed through external control. Full stop. Further, you can substantiate. It comes. It comes from moral and intellectual reasoning. Moral and intellectual reasoning. It comes from moral and intellectual reasoning. Okay, so that's something which all of you need to understand. Now, the segment which you all can reflect upon is intellectual integrity. It is intellectual integrity for which Socrates even was ready to give up his life, right? So, what is it that Socrates gave up his life for? When he was given capital punishment that he will be poisoned, then he was encouraged to take his comments back. It was said that if you take your comments back, sir, then you have a chance to survive. And his disciples also said that, sir, let us like run away, or you just take your comments back, because we as your disciples, we know that what you are speaking is logically correct. So why are you ready to die? Why do you want to sacrifice your life? To which Socrates said that my words will lose its impact, its depth, its integrity if I, for the sake of saving my life, I give up on the power of my words. So, for the sake of intellectual integrity, he chose death over, like, the comforts of life. He said that it's fine that I'll die, but I will not compromise with my, we can say, ideals, like the intellectual ideals per se. That's what Socrates did. So, you all can see that. Similarly, intellectual integrity generally comes in conflict with personal well being. So, intellectual integrity versus personal well being. Like, for example, you are offered a position in Niti Aayog. Suppose a person is offered to become the, like hold a very important significant position in Niti Aayog, and for that the person has to change his or her intellectual standpoint or viewpoint. So what will the person do? On one hand, there is a government job with a lot of perks, emoluments, a huge bungalow in Delhi, along with VVIP access from airports to other, like we can say, government offices, places, situations. So the moment you show the I card, you're like given immediate entry, flawless entry, right? So, in that given situation, when we are speaking of this given scenario and when we are reflecting upon this given scenario, We all need to understand this given purpose, this given situation, that in that possibility a person can get tempted with respect to the personal benefit, personal comfort. The person may be ready to compromise with one's intellectual integrity, and that compromise is something which can lead to, I would say, change in the way the person is processing the reality. For example, Raghuram Rajan. Raghuram Rajan was the governor of RBI, and when it was proposed to him that his tenure will be extended, his tenure shall get revised, but he will have to make certain intellectual compromises with his ideals, and he should make certain reforms in the banking sector, and he should allow certain changes to permit. To which Raghuram Rajan refused. He said that I'll choose to quit rather than, for the sake of the public office, I let incorrect practices creep in, and because of which he quit. And that's why the we can see that when Raghuram Rajan took his retirement, it was quite sensational and talk of the town. And the reason behind it was associated with it. Joyna, you are supposed to be alert and aware. It is I who has slept for 2.5 hours at night. It is not you. So, what is the problem because of which you were lost when I was explaining the entire possibility of what Socrates did? Means it's like I narrated entire Ramayana and you are asking who is Sita, and your condition is even severe. You are not even asking who is Sita, means who is Socrates. You are saying Socrates means, as if it is some candy, or it is some kind of book, or it is some kind of concept. I mean, like, where were you lost? Where were you lost when I was giving you the narrative or the background of Socrates, and how he made a sacrifice for his intellectual integrity? हैरानी होती है ऐसे बच्चों को देखकर कभी कभी. So, Kivika, don't try to give answers like me. Sometimes when I get exasperated, then I give such answers. But with due respect, because I really respect Socrates from the bottom of my heart, I would have never used such an expression. Okay. So, Joyna, please be more attentive. And this is a mark of the possibility of those students who join the situation in between. Suddenly, they'll join the class in between and raise such questions. Suddenly, they'll just raise such questions. Okay. So, yes, Nisha, he is a philosopher, correctly spoken, right? So, what Raghuram Rajan did, nothing. He resigned when he was pushed to make certain banking reforms and certain other reforms, which could have facilitated we can say, the exodus of Mehul Choksi and the likes. A lot of corruption, banking related corruption, that happened between 2018 and 19. It was possible because certain reforms or certain amendments were made in the banking policy as well to facilitate it, right? You can see that this person Adani, he got 100 crore loan directly from SBI for a mining contract in Australia. 10 different multinational corporations had backed out from that mining contract. But to your surprise, the PM and the SBI, we can say the SBI governor or the senior most person, the chairperson, Dr. Bhattacharya, she was the chairperson at that time. I remember a public image came out whereby Adani was sitting, the PM was sitting, Ms. Bhattacharya was sitting, and they were discussing about the issue of the Australian mines, and it was passed. It was SBI who sponsored, who provided the financial backing of 100 CR. Tomorrow, if Adani sinks, the 100 CR and much more would be lost for SBI, and I don't know how many banks will suffer in the hands of such people. So we need to understand this possibility. Raghuram Rajan, under his nose, when such activities were about to take place, he just refused to adhere to those possibilities, and when he took a stern step, he was removed. Urjit Patel was brought to power. Urjit Patel was there in power for almost a year, 10 months or so, and when he sensed that the water is running above his head and things are colossally going wrong, and he cannot approve of it anymore, he also took voluntary retirement as RBI governor, and he joined if I'm not mistaken, Harvard University as a professor. Okay, so a lot happened between 2016 to 2019. And Raghuram Rajan, if you recall him as the RBI governor, he refused his next tenure because he could sense the kind of intellectual compromises that he will have to make. And he was not ready to make compromises with his intellectual integrity. Okay, all right. So, 75,000 crore loan rebate was also given to Adani Enterprises. Yeah, I mean, if you get to the books, you will find so many much more things associated with it. I appreciate all those students who are interested to explain who Socrates is, but let your friend Joina find it out, because all of you are definitely aware of it and you shall get to know more about it later. So that's what. Can I give, yeah, you can briefly just write, keep the sentence balanced. It is, that's why Socrates is a better example, a more balanced example. So Mona Lisa, stick to Socrates example. If you don't, then in that situation you can write down that Raghuram Rajan refused his next tenure as RBI governor due to compromising, due to the pressure to compromise with his intellectual and ideological standpoint. That's how you maintain the answer apolitical in nature. Yes, so Socrates, teacher of Aris, Aris, teacher of Plato. Well, Kivika, Socrates was the teacher of Plato. And that's why when Plato wrote the play, Socrates itself, the core character, the main leading character is Socrates. And Socrates never wrote a book in his life. So it is considered that through the writings of Plato, we come to know about Socrates. All right. So, no, ethics is not a hard nut to crack. Ethics is a subject which forces you and encourages you to think. And people who are not in the habit of thinking, people who are in the habit of rote learning or just give me the facts, I'll memorize it and I'll write it in the exam, for those people it can be tough. For but for those people who love to think, ponder, reflect, what's happening in society? Why is it happening? What is the theoretical explanation of it? How can we arrive at a better version of the society? For those people, ethics shall be a joyous ride. For those people, ethics shall be an eye opener, right? Okay. So, with respect to this, I think I have given enough examples, Kiru Bagar. So, it's perfectly fine. Now, um, is resigning from a position a solution? Yes, that can be the last solution. If you have to, if you're forced or coerced to compromise with your intellectual integrity versus your salary and well-being, then in that situation, if that's the last resort, then in that situation, there are people who choose to resign rather than adhere to the possibilities of like compromising with their dimension. I get an advantage of being an overthinker. Hardeep, maybe you thought it was overthinking, but probably that was the minimal standard to indulge in. So, we shall read books, but we do not read books. Can we example integrity in student life? Theory. Okay, so Shalu, that's a very silly example. Okay. One should study books, but we are not studying books. So, is it an example of integrity? No, that is loss of integrity. As a student, your prime purpose is to study. And if you don't study, then this situation can happen. I like the subject, but I did not know. Obviously, baat hai, you don't have any academic background, Ajay, and all your friends don't have any academic background until and unless someone had philosophy or psychology in their graduation subject, right? So, for majority of the students, there is no academic background, thus the uncertainty. The discipline is beautiful, but it's just that you have never ever studied it in your life, so the terms are new, the methods of reflection are new, but nonetheless it's very interesting and eye-opening kind of an kind of a, I would say, option or subject, right? So intellectual integrity, when we are discussing about it, so you can further substantiate this, that in one sentence I can also say that intellectual integrity doesn't mean that one is stubborn, it doesn't mean that one is stubborn, comma, it's about achievement of truth. Sorry, it's not about, I should write, it's not about achievement of truth, rather it is rather it is related to pursuit of truth. It is not related to achievement of truth, rather it is related to pursuit of truth. Okay, when you're aspiring to arrive at truth, when you're aspiring to, like, achieve truth, it's then that you can connect with it. So and you never, like, in fact, we never achieve absolute truth, absolute truth, we only falsify the present truth. We only falsify the present truth. Okay, so for example, earth is flat, earth is flat is a falsified, is a falsified, or has been falsified is a better term, is a falsified truth कहने की जगह I can just in short mention this, has been falsified. Okay, so it has been falsified. So again, we are the only species in the universe, it may get falsified, right? So that's something. And like when we are talking about intellectual, we can say integrity. So intellectual integrity, we all need to understand this given possibility, that intellectual integrity is when you are open to even amend your own opinions, when you realize that probably what you held to be true may not be like completely correct. So like for example, like let's say when I'm talking about this component of intellectual integrity, see this intellectual integrity, when we're speaking of it, like Ram Jethmalani in 2014, he was an ardent supporter of our present Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, and Ram Jethmalani supported his prime ministerial candidature. He said that I truly support him and I really want to see him as the PM. He is a very good leader and he is supposed to become the PM. He should become the PM. But by 2018, his opinions changed after seeing him govern as a PM. And then he said that there are like a lot of colossal flaws, which, as per my ideals, I did not want the PM to perform. Henceforth, I do not back him intellectually anymore. So this is like, what you feel intellectually connected to, whatever are your root values. You are not fear, or you don't have the fear of public opinion. This person keeps changing his stance. Or you are not fearful of like hate or abuse, or any kind of, we can consider, negative remarks being passed. You speak what you believe in. You speak what your mind stands for. That's intellectual integrity. So like let us consider intellectual integrity is exercised with, is exercised with, first we can consider intellectual humility. Intellectual humility, you understand humility? Humility means humbleness. So intellectual humility, humbleness, we can consider that, what happened was that Manmohan Singh when he was the finance minister. So after he bought LPG reforms, so everything was not smooth, everything was not hunky dory. So when you remember, PV Narasimha Rao was the prime minister and Manmohan Singh was the finance minister. So Vajpayee ji, he came up with a lot of facts, a lot of insights, and in the parliament he vehemently criticized the the then present finance minister, that is Mr. Manmohan Singh. Mr. Manmohan Singh got so deeply affected, he kept reflecting upon what all he said, all the facts, he kept mulling over it. MULL, get to learn new words. So mull means when you keep thinking and pondering over something. Okay, so he mulled over the facts, he got so deeply affected that he proposed to resign. And then, like, that's the innocent of Dr. Singh at that time period. That's why he was never a leader who was contesting for Lok Sabha elections and getting all sensational votes. He could only win from Rajya Sabha. So, and Professor Saab was in a way very humble a person. So Manmohan Singh was a professor in Delhi University, in Delhi School of Economics. Later he became the RBI governor. After RBI governor, he became the finance minister. After finance minister, later, like almost a decade and a half later, no, almost 2 decades, I should say, a decade and a half to 2 decades later, he became the prime minister. Anyway, so when Vajpayee ji was there as the leader of opposition and Manmohan Singh was the finance minister, so he was so vehemently criticized and he was so taken aback that he proposed his resignation, to which Vajpayee ji came up to him and he said that it is the role of the opposition to hyphenate the problems and flaws. It does not mean that I do not appreciate your work. So you keep up with your work, you can consider my opinions, and accordingly you can look into the like tentative reforms or the possibilities which can be created. So Dr. Singh, I do not uh, like uh, like uh, oppose you as a person. It is the policies which I personally do not appreciate, and it's okay for like having dissenting opinions, opposing opinions in democracy. All right, so that's also something which all of you can connect with when we are discussing about it. So those were the golden days of the parliament. Agreed, agreed. That kind of balance is so very important to be nurtured for having a healthier version of democracy. Anyway, second thing which we are talking about, so intellectual humility is what? You are ready to consider, are you going wrong? And if needed, you are ready to reconsider, mull over the fact, and take a fresh opinion. That's intellectual humility. So for intellectual integrity, you need intellectual humility. Okay, when you are open to it, means being open to listen and learn from others. Listen and learn from others. Second quality is intellectual courage. Intellectual courage. Okay. So such people should be like have the courage to face public opposition. Okay. So courage to face public opposition. Courage to face public opposition. All right. So that should always be there when we are reflecting upon the same. Again, another thing which we all can think of, so is intellectual autonomy. Intellectual autonomy. That means open to people's suggestions, open to people's suggestions, but the final decision, but the final decision we can consider, but the final decision should be that of one's own. But the final decision should be that of one's own. And fourth is intellectual empathy. Intellectual empathy. So, intellectual empathy means like capable to look into other people's feelings and viewpoints while considering a situation or an opinion. All right. So that's what. Politics was quite ethical in 90s. Yeah, bit by bit you can see the denigration happens. I don't know what we'll head to, but it was quite ethical earlier. I mean, in previous decades. So you can listen to Vajpayee ji's speeches also. For that matter, I also liked Govindacharya's speech. Amazing as a speaker. Arun Shori's speech. Amazing. These people are very learned. So again, you can see. So integrity. Integrity, when we are speaking of it, so you all need to understand that what is integrity. Integrity is value of all values when we speak of it. Okay, so integrity is the value of values, or it can also be said integrity is morality in action. Morality in action. There's one more quote which I can give you. If you have integrity, nothing else matters. If you don't have integrity, then nothing else matters. Can you understand what does it mean? So if you have integrity, even if few elements are missing, it can be fixed later. That's why if you have integrity, nothing else matters. Other factors shall follow up. Sooner or later, other factors shall follow up. And the reverse also. If you don't have integrity, so even if other factors, supporting conditions are present, sooner or later they will disappear. They will evaporate. That's why if you don't have integrity, nothing else matters. All right. So that's what you're supposed to connect with or consider. To this, as I was discussing about Dr. Manmohan Singh and the financial reforms, the LPG reforms of 1990s. So Dr. Singh had also gone to teach like in the universities abroad. Okay, he was an Indian professor who was also invited to Princeton and Harvard and Oxford, especially Oxford. He had taught. So when he went to Oxford, payments were made in pounds, and when he went to Harvard, payments were made in dollars. So he had like a lot of foreign currency in his wallet. Okay, he had a lot of foreign currency in his kitty. So what happened was that Dr. Singh, when he was exposed to this given scenario, this given situation, whereby the LPG reforms happened, he realized that the value of the foreign currency that was there in his bank account, it got revised tremendously. Means there was a difference of almost 50-60,000 rupees in his account that was created because of the currency getting revised, the conversion of the currency getting revised. And why did the conversion of currency get revised? It was because of the policies proposed by him. So just to maintain the intellectual integrity, that the policies, financial policies were proposed by me, and due to those policies there has been some personal gain that has been noted in my personal bank account. The amount that I had earned from the foreign universities, there is a revision in that amount. Okay, so what did he do? So he, you will be surprised to know that he donated that amount to probably PM relief fund or contingency fund. He donated that amount because with that intellectual integrity, that the value of the dollar has increased because of his public policies. So taking the intellectual responsibility, he did so. Okay, so you can just connect with this given dimension. Similarly, when APJ Abdul Kalam Sahab was the president of India, his extended family came to visit him. So in the president house, that is Rashtrapati Bhavan, and the president's guests are supposed to be the guest of the state, so all the expenses are borne by the state. To which APJ Abdul Kalam sir said that um, the state or the exchequer is not supposed to bear the expenses of my guests. Poor people, middle class people, they pay taxes with so much of hard work, so much of effort. So I don't want the such like we can say hard earned taxed money to be spent on my relatives because they are visiting me. That money should be spent from my salary. All the expenses that will be incurred because of my extended family visiting the Rashtrapati Bhavan, that money should be spent from the salary that like I have in my account. So that is like, the kind of integrity which people have exercised in the past. So that's also there, and he paid for his family. So that's what you can see. He said that I am responsible for my guests. I am responsible for my extended family. It's not the president's house, or the we can consider the Rashtrapati Bhavan, which is responsible for the same. Similarly, I can remind you of Lal Bahadur Shastri. Lal Bahadur Shastri ji was such an upright of like a prime minister. He never ever in his lifetime himself or let his wife use the government vehicle for private purpose. Means when his wife or his daughter needed to go for shopping or doing some other chores at the market, he discouraged them from taking his government vehicle. So for that, now they are the prime minister's daughter and wife, so a car was needed, and he as a prime minister did not have a car, so he took a loan from Punjab National Bank, and an EMI of 5,000 rupees was like there. So, sorry, EMI of 5,000, the amount that of loan was around 5,000 rupees, because in those times 5,000 was too much of money. So, an amount of 5,000 was taken as a loan, and an EMI was fixed with his salary. Now, what happened was that when he died in Tashkent, and when his dead body was brought, to which the government of India said that the loan shall be waived for Shastri ji, and the government will bear the expenses of the car, and the loan will be waived. To which Shastri ji's wife, she said that he would be very sad if he would have been alive in this situation. So the loan amount will keep getting deducted from his pension. We don't want the loan to be waived. That's like, the kind of integrity that you come to know about your previous leaders. Similarly, M Vishweshwaraya, when we are talking about that, you gave example of Abdul Kalam sir and Shastri ji under intellectual integrity. Yeah, I mean, like intellectual integrity, well, I gave the examples under like moral integrity, not intellectual integrity, because they are associated with their personal lives. It is not associated with some academic ideology. Okay, that is associated with personal integrity, or we can say moral integrity. Again, with respect to the same, I can give you the example of M Vishweshwaraya. M Vishweshwaraya used two sets of candles. One, when he was doing the government work. As a scientist, when he was doing the government research or government work, he used to light the candle of the government, sponsored by the government. And when he got into personal reading, he used to burn his own candle and blow off the other, and then use his own personal candle for reading. Now, the question is, who really pays attention to the candles? That, whether he's burning the candle of the government, or he is burning the candle of his own, at the level of being a senior scientist. There was an unlimited supply of candles for him at his position. But the very clarity that I don't want to misuse the government resources for private purposes, that is something which is also an example of integrity. Again, we can say this also reminds me of S. Rajput sir. So Rajput sir was the director of NCRT. He retired barely a decade back. Okay, so he was again a very upright officer, as an NCRT director, he was also given a public vehicle, and he never allowed his family or even himself to use it for private purposes. He never ever took the vehicle to the vegetable market to purchase vegetables. He used to first go home, buy that vehicle, then he kept that vehicle, he took out his cycle, and on his cycle, with cloth bag, he cycled all the way to the vegetable market, got his vegetables, loaded it on his cycle, and came back. And even on the day of his retirement, Rajput sir, he did the same thing. Like, he went by the government vehicle, but he called up home and he got his private vehicle, and he returned on his private vehicle. He did not return in the government vehicle, because he said that now I have retired, so why and how can I use the government vehicle for private purposes even when I have to go home for the last time after my retirement? Getting it? So that these, a lot of examples are there associated with moral integrity and personal integrity. Even when we are talking about this professional integrity, okay, with respect to professional integrity, there are a lot of people who pay the price for it. Like, for example, Ashok Khemka sir, in I would say 28 years, he has been like transferred 53 times. 28 years, up to 30 years, or 30 32 years, he has been transferred more than 53 times. Similarly, you can think of this Pradeep Kasni. Pradeep Kasni is also a senior IS officer from Haryana. In past 35 years, he has been transferred 70 times. Similarly, D. Rupa, in past 20 years, she has been transferred more than 41 times. So that's the condition. But they never compromised with their integrity. They never compromised with their professional integrity. So, and in extreme case, you all already know the case of Satyendra Dubey. Satyendra Dubey, the case of NHAI, and he reported the case to PMO, and by mistake, the information got leaked that who has made the complaint, and due to which we all could see this given possibility, whereby he got killed. You can also think of S Manjunath. He was an officer with Indian Oil Corporation. In 2005, similarly, he had reported about the case of adulteration. Or you can remember Narendra Kumar. He was IPS officer Morena. With him, poor guy, the worst happened with him. IPS officer Morena, this Narendra Kumar, what happened that he reported against mining mafia, and after reporting against mining mafia, he took some very strict action, due to which, what they did, he was on an inspection duty, he got a tip associated with some drug peddling case, and he himself was present on the road for the case, whereby a truck crushed him. A truck just crushed him. So that also there. Again, you can think of Rakesh Asthana. He was sharpshooter, and he was also the CBI special director. Then Ranjit Sinha. So these individuals, they prioritized uprightness over and above everything. Okay, that's something which we all need to understand. So railway minister resigns after railway incident can be example of professional integrity. Yes, Shalu, if a railway minister resigns after major railway accident, that will be an example of professional integrity. Okay, Vyapam scam, yes, a lot of people were killed. That's that. But anyway, we are discussing about integrity, not cases of corruption. So Vyapam does not fit here. You need to remember officers or people who have stood for their integrity. Can we write examples? Which example? NM Dangar? Which example? Have you given any example which I'm missing out? So the examples which I am giving, yes, you can talk about those examples. Yes, Niranjan, Durga Shakti Nagpal as an officer, she took up against the illegal sand mining mafia, and she shot to limelight within like a span of little time period. I still remember at that time social media was not even so active. And 13 or 14 is the year I remember tentatively. And I remember that Durga Shakti Nagpal, more than 2.5 lakh people searched her name within a day, and within a week more than 7 lakh people had searched her name. So her shot of fame, and people protesting against the action taken by Akhilesh Yadav government, uh, brought her to power. Her suspension was cancelled after 15 days. She was falsely fabricated in a case whereby it was said that the mosque's wall fell down because of her irresponsible behavior. It was like later on ruled out, and then she was reinstated to power. So she was falsely implicated in the mosque case with respect to its wall, and like action was taken against her to suspend her. So that did happen. But if I go by the insider stories, means today's IS officers who have worked under her or who have been associated with her at different levels, so now they say that she is no more that upright an officer that she used to be. And her shot of fame, when it happened at that time, she was an officer of high levels of integrity. Now she is ready to make professional compromises. So that's also there. So that's the disheartening thing. Some people are able to sustain it, some people are unable to sustain it, right? So as he rejected to bow down before politician tried to expose corruption. Okay, why the people are getting transferred so very frequently? I mean, see, if you accept that this is what the job is, everyone knows the challenges of their job. Like, don't multinational corporation people, are they not aware that once in a while they can be transferred to foreign countries and they will have to live there? Aren't army officials aware that after every 2 to 3 years they will be transferred and posted in different cities, whereby it can be peace posting or it can be harsh posting and or border posting, and like they will have to live out of their boxes, because after every 2 years they have to keep packing all the items, because basic infrastructure like bed, dining table, sofa, etc. is provided in army. But rest everything, all the decorative items, clothes, like fridge, refrigerator, and microwave, and like air conditioners and whatnot, all gadgets, all we can consider like household items, everything has to be packed. So you are like packing moving for after every 2 years. For example, in case of like my profession, when I knew that when mains exam will be near, I will be under tremendous pressure, because optional will start, there will be batches of mains back to back, and I will have to walk an extra mile, whereas I was holidaying big time in May 15 days holiday, like June, like 12 days holiday, I was just chilling, I mean relaxing. So was I not prepared for this day? I was. Like yesterday only I reached like at quarter to 10, but one of my senior professors called up and spoke to me till 10:30. Then my parents, and then after that I was reminded of something related to optional, so I started working on that, and that work like indirectly extended till 2 o'clock. I realized at 1 o'clock it's getting really late, but I knew that I have to now complete the work because I'm midway. And by the time I slept, it was almost 2 o'clock, and then got up at 4:30 because driver would have come at 5 o'clock to pick me. So was I not prepared for such a day that I'm living today, that 2.5 hours of sleep and 3.5 hours of the very first lecture and then two more lectures to go? So yes, I was open to this situation, that once in a while this rough situation can happen. Anyone and everyone who is associated with their profession are aware of the rigors of the profession. They are aware of the challenges of their profession. So it is very easy to call quits. The ideal way of exercising professional integrity is when you are aware that what all expectations shall be made from you related to your profession, you stand for it. And when you stand for it, you exercise intellectual integrity or moreover professional integrity in your work, by which you are able to bring about balance. All right. Again, when we are speaking of this given dimension, we can also connect it with like when we are talking about this professional integrity, you can connect it with, like, let's say the Tatas. So when we are talking about Tatas versus Reliance, what is the difference? Tatas, because of their professional integrity, they are treated as professionals, right? So they are treated as professionals, that they will take care of all the do's and don'ts, and they will be like taking care from the salt to the steel, everything. Whereas when we speak of Reliance, so Reliance is treated more like a business house, more like a business house, because you are aware that intellectual and ideological compromises can be made by Reliance. So they are treated like as businessmen. So it is treated as a like a business house, or they are treated like a businessman. So like every profession has a professional code of conduct. Okay, so professional code of conduct, rules and regulations, rules and regulations is maintained, rules and regulations is maintained. So professional code of conduct, rules and regulations is maintained. That's what we all can connect with. Okay, and that is how you are able to deal with professional integrity. Okay, uh, so rules and regulations, code of conduct, right? So consistent practice of guidelines, consistent practice of guidelines. Consistent practice of guidelines is constantly maintained. That's how you can understand, and that is how the professional code of conduct is maintained. Yes, Ratan Tata is also a philanthropist man. Moreover, he has upheld larger business ideals, because of which he is treated more like a professional. You can see even the idea of nano, that can be connected with it. When we are speaking of professional integrity, we can also think of integrity in civil services. Okay, so integrity in public services, or we can consider civil services, is also a mark of professional integrity. So how do we maintain integrity in public services? So we all can connect it with following the civil services code, following the civil services code. Okay, the second ARC gives specific meaning to it. Second ARC has given specific meaning to it. We can also discuss it, like it says that integrity in civil services, what it says is that integrity in civil services means giving priority, giving priority to public interest over personal interest, over personal interest. Okay, so that's something which all of you can connect. So in all official duties, we can see that one has to prioritize the public interest and welfare. Okay, so in all official duties, one has to prioritize, one has to prioritize public interest or welfare. Okay, that's why I said that a civil servant drinking in open bar is not appreciated, because if a civil servant is drinking in open bar, then in that situation the person will not set the right example to the youth, to the masses, especially those who are not intellectually so matured. Okay, so and he or she will fail to prove as a friend, philosopher and guide for the larger society. Okay, so the second ARC, it has exhaustively explained that what is public interest and how it can be defeated. So The person should solely be guided by public interest. Always remember that. A civil servant should always be guided by public interest in their official decision making, and no kind of financial favor or consideration should be made, even for their families, even for their loved ones. Okay, so like you can also share that one should, you मैंने लिख दिया, चलो ठीक है, you shouldn't, one shouldn't is something that you shouldn't show a behavior which is akin to, akin means similar, akin to unbecoming, unbecoming of a civil servant. For example, I remember that when I was like, pursuing my law, at that time Mayawati was the CM of Uttar Pradesh. So at that time, I remember that there was this Buddha circuit being inaugurated for Formula One race track. And at that time, Mayawati was there, and his like personal secretary, who was a senior IS officer, Mr. Mishra. So he was walking with her as she was surveying the Buddha circuit, whether it is done well, whether the things are fine. So as he was walking with her, and she was suffering from cold, so Mr. Mishra was walking with a kerchief, a handkerchief in his hand, and she used to take the kerchief every now and then, blow her nose, and like keep it in his hand. So this is akin to unbecoming of an IS officer. Any young aspirant or any young officer, what kind of message, what kind of example is set for them? Similarly, Mayawati was very particular about like lowering or stooping down the level of civil servants by breaking their courage, breaking their morality. And those who stooped down were definitely like, given some creamy posts. Those who did not, they continued to be in the service, but they were not given creamy departments where they can go into corrupt activities and make extra money. Okay. So, she was, when it used to be her open darbar, she used to see there was only one chair and rest only carpets. So her junior ministers were supposed to sit on the carpet, bureaucrats were supposed to stand, and she was the only one who used to sit on the chair. This is still minimal. In public rallies, when she used to go for public rallies, on stages there used to be like a few chairs where she and her junior ministers used to sit. Publicly, she used to ask some IS officer, senior IS officer, that see, there is dust on my shoe, come here and just wipe it off. So to which one of the IS officers took this decision, and this is the professional integrity being managed. The CM is saying that there is dust on my shoe and it needs to be dusted. So that needs immediate attention, definitely. But at the same time, you are not the person who is supposed to do. So he immediately sent the PSO and he said that just ask, find out if there is a cobbler or someone who is related to shoe repair work in the crowd. So just shout out and just check. And if there is someone who is into like any such job, just call that person with a duster. And such a person was caught hold within few minutes, and the person came with her duster, and the officer got her shoes polished, dusted off. So that's the bureaucratic way to get the things done. She will understand that in the future you will not do bootlicking. So definitely you will not be one of the core members in her coterie in the secretariat. But that does not mean that you will be suspended or you will be transferred or you will lose your job. Please remember, Article 310 and 311 provides sufficient security to bureaucrats in terms of their job. So you should never feel insecure about your job. Even if briefly someone is suspended, then also the salary keeps coming in the account. What is not given is power and discretion. And second thing is the perks and emoluments. But basic salary still continues, even to the suspended officers. So there is no reason to be fearful, and there is no reason to adhere to corruption. And please remember, in majority of the situations, when you are being an upright or honest officer, you are not suspended, you are not punished even distantly. The only thing is you will not be kept in sometimes creamy postings, but that's also not necessary. One of my friends who is like this chief, what is some senior director in finance department, posted in Madhya Pradesh, very very upright officer. So he was saying the same thing, that yes, a lot of people I know for my position, whereby there are two guys to do the stamping and the stenos are there, and that two like junior officials that I have. For this position, there are people who are ready to bribe very easily something between 10 lakh to 20 lakh rupees to the seniors to get such posting. And when I got it, because of my uprightness, because my senior really liked my work, a lot of people had that sense of jealousy, that tinge of jealousy, that how come this fellow got. And I know that I cannot pull through very long in the system, because there can be challenges associated and rigors associated with future postings, transfers, etc. But that doesn't matter, because the moment I got inducted in the services, why was I not aware of transfers and postings? No officer, whether honest or dishonest, can continue in a given district for more than 3 years. Majority of the times it's 2 to 2.5 years. So instead of 2 to 2.5 years, there can be a possibility that you can be transferred within 1 year. So what? Like transferring in 2 years and transferring in 1 year, if by getting transferred little early you are able to upkeep the values of the system, protect the system, okay, you are able to protect the concerns of the system, then what's the harm? There's no issue or no challenge per se. What about balance between personal life and professional life in civil servant? Aditi, the moment you are aware, like for example, my sister-in-law, she is an army officer, okay, she was posted in Congo, and her husband, that is my brother, he was he got a special this thing recognition because of his we can say expertise. So there was an entrance and he cleared the entrance, and he got sponsored by Indian Army to complete his MTech from IISc Bangalore. So one was posted in Congo, one was pursuing MTech from IISc Bangalore. Were they not aware that as a couple, because they are in armed forces, they will not be able to spend time together like typical couples all the time, right? Was my brother not aware that if he is not going to marry a housewife, that means that the girl, if she is career oriented, at the peak of COVID, he used to get so agitated after getting back home. They could not call the staff. Army rules, regulations were very strict, when where he was posted at that time. They both were posted in Pathankot, so they could not get any staff. Army was very strict about any kind of staff being entertained at that time for due to social distancing. So there were job from 9 to 5, sometimes extended until 7, and then getting back, and both are cleaning utensils, somehow trying to cook. So there were rigors, and he was like, oh God, it's so impossible to cook, and then there are so many strains. I was like, so what? You chose that. And when you have chosen that, you have to undergo that. That's what my mother said, and that's what I said. So you have to be like very clear about this thing, that when you choose a life, either don't prepare for this exam, and when you're preparing for this exam, be very clear that every once in a while your personal life will be put to stake. You are going to be a public servant, a civil servant. So it will be society first, public interest first. It's not a regular job. There are so many private jobs or other kinds of jobs in which you can have the comfort of living in one city and staying throughout your life in that city, and probably getting a better salary also. You are getting into public services where you are going to prioritize the comfort and the well-being of the public at all times. Only if you have that deep sense of dedication and regard for serving the people, then only a person should get selected or prepare for this exam. As simple as that. All the machoism, that there is like a car which is entering with all the red beacon or like green this blue beacon. Blue beacon has already been removed. You except judges or some higher dignitaries nowadays, that is also not used. But having a government vehicle and all that stuff, if you think that it's a glorious thing, well, it is your family which shows the allegiance. Oh, my husband or my wife or my ex or my this or that or my son or my daughter is an officer. It's they who are basking in the glory of the fact. But the person who is in the job has to undergo the rigors of the job. I mean, during election duty, there is a fair possibility you won't be able to sleep more than 4 hours or 5 hours on a high side. And there will be a fair chance that almost for like 15 days, you will be in a regimented way, managing and controlling so many things at the same times and constantly being under pressure. There can be a possibility that your mother is ill. There's a possibility that your child is ill. There is a possibility that there is a cultural program in the child's school. So many things will happen, and you'll have to choose. Okay, so don't talk about personal life. I'm really sorry to say that. Okay, not needed, Ajay. I was talking about personal life versus professional life, in which Ajay, I gave the example of um, my brother. Okay, but the example was motivated by that army officers constantly living out of their bags, constantly, like, on a package mode. Similarly, when my optionals get over and when GS classes start, I have to travel to so many cities. Like, once I was back in January, from, like, taking a personal trip abroad. When I came back after that, since January 25th till June 30th, okay, or to be specific, June 29th, I had covered more than, like, 12 cities, more than 12 cities, and every month at least like 3 to 4 flights at least. That was the condition. 12 days I was in one city, 15 days another city, again 10 days another city, again 5 days another city. That's how it was happening. So was I not prepared for that possibility related to my profession? So everyone knows the rigors of their profession. And that is something, when you are already pre-informed about it, that it prepares you better, and that you are able to, or you're expected to, maintain professional integrity. All right. So with respect to this, it's highly unfortunate that such unethical people have been posted as a CM of India. This, ma'am, can civil servant run an NGO? The relatives can, not the person. Profit, like office of profit, cannot be held, or any other extracurricular activities. That's why you'll see it's generally the wife or the mother, or in their names the NGO is created. They do have NGOs. Mm, so usually I heard people who get suspended won't receive salary. No, salary is there, perks and emoluments are not there. So with respect to this, all right, all right. Now, with respect to this, as we further proceed ahead, we also can substantiate something more, like with respect to this. So what we can substantiate, अच्छा इसमें एक और छोटा सा sub dimension है. Artistic integrity is when you are not indulging in any kind of plagiarism. Okay, plagiarism. Oh God, feeling really fatigued. Okay. So, when we are speaking of this given possibility associated with plagiarism, we all can, connect with the possibility. What is plagiarism? So, plagiarism is associated with cheating. Okay. Cheating or copying. So when you have artistic integrity, you don't cheat or copy. For example, if you're a singer, then you don't, like, copy the songs. You, if you're a songwriter or a playwright, you don't copy the script or the lyrics. If you are, like, let us say, like in any kind of creative pursuit, if you're a sculptor, you're not copying the sculpting pattern, or the design of some other sculptor. If you are a painter, you have not copied the theme of another one. So that is what we can consider. Can we see after the class get over? What can we see? That's what you're writing since then. What is this can we see, Pujaba? Can you just explain the can we see is associated with which part? Because what is appearing on the screen by and by is can we see after the class get over. So what do you want to see after the class gets over? Write the full sentence. The research work also includes plagiarism. Yes, a lot of people, in the on an average, they have a tendency to copy. So that's also there. S- Uh, Again, with respect to this, what else? With respect to this, it's unfortunate, unethical people. I think I'm not missing out on Pooja. Please write the full sentence. I tried to trace your message, but I could not. All right. Generic medicines. Generic medicines. Well, generic medicines is associated with the scientific aspect, not artistic integrity. Art is not involved. So sorry, it's an incorrect example. Why all these remake of songs? Yeah, that's not artistic integrity. When you're copying the tunes from South Korean music, and when you are copying the, like, especially you can see so many, like Pritam Da, infamous for copying the like tunes, right? So that's also there. So respecting the copyright, so very true. Artistic in civil servant? No, definitely not. I'm not talking about artistic integrity in civil servant. Professional integrity is in the other page. This is the fourth part, the fourth subsegment pertaining to integrity. When we speak of it, so I've just written it. Exceptional present in medicine, even use, even patent. Well. I know what generic medicine is, but where is art involved? It is associated with science. And patenting is an issue related to the creativity of a scientist who has arrived at a new medicine. So, where is artistic integrity in it? All those people who are explaining what is associated with generic medicine, it's not going ahead with that. So, a few months back, our finance minister was seen questioning a DM in one of the South Indian states for not having the PM's picture in the ration card. Well, no comments. That's something not to do with the core subject. It is something associated with political promotions, and it is associated with political promotion, so that constant canvassing is done while the government is in power, and it is like executing a scheme or a policy, so that with the execution the people are also aware that which political party has articulated, so that it facilitates in, or it culminates into the voting behavior. So it's more of a political move, less to do with ethics. All right. So artificial intelligence also poses a major challenge to copyright infringement of artists. True, very true, Pulkit. So when you say that someone is mixing two songs together and making a new song, uh, I mean, what is there to explain, Ajay, related to that? There is copying, you can understand, drawing, painting, enamel work, fabric, floor, wall cover design. Yes, everything is incorporated when we talk about artistic liberty. Acha, uske aage, I think now SME you can support me, because I need to, like, probably move ahead with this. But ma'am, but in generic medicine, the government is compromising with the efforts of the patentee. Instead, the government is getting low cost medicine. Bhuvneshwari, are you aware of compulsory licensing and the heavy compensation that is given to the patent owner? Are you aware of that? While a patent owner holds the patent for 20 years, the medicine cannot be produced at generic level. That's called incomplete information. So please read about compulsory licensing. And when you read about compulsory licensing, you will realize that it is illegal as well as unethical to manufacture a medicine which holds a patent. Till the time it has not been licensed compulsorily, limited batches can be produced as generic version, but for which crores of rupees is given to the patent owner as a compensation. All right. So, okay, fine. Now, like, please support me, SME, with the rest of the queries. There are two, three more. And then I just further take you to the third important component, that is correlationship between, we can consider, integrity, efficiency, and corruption. Efficiency and corruption. As we reflect upon the correlationship between the three, remember this segment which now I am discussing can also be helped or can also be recalled when probity is recalled, corruption, the chapter is being recalled. All right. So, with respect to this, yes, Pulkit, there is MPP as well. So, when we are discussing about it with respect to the dimension, I'm asking about the behavior of FM towards the DM and integrity which the DM should have held. Yeah, agreed, definitely. But every now and then, Pallavi, this is what I said, that it was an issue associated with political coercion and political influence. It was not associated with integrity per se. And the DM is supposed to follow the instructions of the political party in power, whereby when we are talking about implementation of schemes, in the method of implementation, there are certain protocols, rules, and regulations which are laid down. If the rules and regulations says that specific image or design has to be followed, it has to be followed, and it is laid down under rules and regulation, even though the rules and regulations are created with a political stand. All right. So that's how if the DM is following it, the person is not violating professional integrity. Okay, I hope that's clear now. So now, with respect to this, when we are talking about integrity and like let's say the correlationship between efficiency and corruption. So now, as we are talking about it, can efficiency and corruption, now let me first discuss about these two. So first and foremost, the question is, can efficiency and corruption be together? Yes, people, can we see that efficiency and corruption is exercised together? Yeah, can that be possible, that there is a very highly efficient officer but the person is also corrupt? And is it fine, is it fine to like exist when we are talking about it? What is the problem if such a practice is in existence? What is the challenge, what is the problem? Yeah. Okay, so let me give an example. Let's say there is a PWD officer, and the PWD officer learns that there is 1 crore rupees sanctioned for the culmination of a project. And the PWD officer is an extra, had been an extra bright student academically. So the officer, what he did was that he completed the entire project in 70 lakhs. Okay, so 30 lakhs were left. So the person kept 10 lakh rupees and returned 20 lakh rupees to the government. So the person considered that the government was already sanctioning 1 crore. I'm saving the government from 20 lakh rupees. And because it was my efficiency, because of which I was able to complete the work very efficiently and with good quality in 70 lakhs, so I'm taking the 10 lakh as a personal reward. Suppose the person is doing any such act. Now, why is this act faulty? What is the problematic segment related to this act? Yes. What is the problematic segment associated with this? The PWD officer taking this money. What is the problematic thing? Yeah, morally it's incorrect, or the person exercised lack of transparency, or there was corruption. So what happens when there is corruption in the system? What is the impact of corruption? Yes, people. Why such actions should be discouraged? Why corruption should be discouraged? Should be discouraged even when the work has been performed with efficiency. Efficiency. Even when the work has been performed with efficiency. Okay, wastage of public revenue, set an examples for others to do corruption, very good. It can also lead to, it comes under integrity, that's too vague. It sets a wrong example. Yes, people, not his money to loss, compromising the quality cannot be done. No, the person worked with qualitative inputs. Some students don't listen to it thoroughly. 10 lakh government ko jata, it would have been invested in the infrastructure, employment generation, good market, all right. Okay. So, why corruption should be discouraged? What is the reason? So, as you all pointed out, yes, it is addictive. Corruption is addictive. It sets wrong example, wrong example. So, damages work culture, damages work culture. It can also have a domino effect. Domino effect means chain reaction. Okay, chain reaction. First, a smaller level of corruption, then later on, even bigger. So, rather than 10 lakh, then 12, then 15, then 17, and other people also joining the bandwagon. So, the size of corruption can just grow. Okay. Another challenge is you can consider is that it can reduce the efficiency. It can reduce the efficiency in the long run. If a person sees that, oh, there is a scope for corruption, the person will work very efficiently. When there will be no scope for corruption, then the efficiency can get affected. So in the long run, it can reduce efficiency. We can also consider that it has, so like example, wrong example, so it has a demonstration effect. That's also something which we all can consider when we are speaking of it. So demonstration effect associated with this. Again, we can also like reflect upon this given possibility that it is something which is going to harm the system in the long term. Okay, so harmful for the system in the long run. All right. Great. So all of you can connect with it. Like for example, the classical example is of East India Company. All of you know that East India Company, huge level of corruption prevailed. First, the officers avoided it initially. That, oh, there are officials coming from other parts of like the world, and they have to adjust to the heat, the sweat, the mosquito bites in India. So they considered that if they are being a bit corrupt and that is acting as an incentive, let us allow that corruption. So that bit of corruption which was allowed as an incentive to keep them motivated, over the time period it kept like increasing. There was a more like a ball of snow effect. So the snowball effect was so that the size of the corruption kept growing, because of which they had to bring in new laws. If you remember the 1873 Regulation Act, you can remember the Pitts India Act, you can remember the law related to board of directors, right? Again, you can remember that Warren Hastings, he was charged with corruption. Robert Clive had committed suicide, all that, right? So corruption is something which you should never ever entertain in any given situation. All right, so that's something which all of you can connect with. Then comes the second segment that is associated with after this efficiency and corruption, we can also connect with efficiency and integrity. Okay, so efficiency and integrity. So this segment to be continued in the next class, right? So the relationship between efficiency and integrity, and then further integrity and corruption, this correlation shall continue, and some very interesting insights shall be shared with you. This insight will also help you in the chapter of probity and the subtopic of corruption. All right. So this is it for today, all of you. Thank you and have a good day. Let's meet again on Monday. Thanks.